and ever-changing views, and computer terminology, Commodore reviews. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Hello and welcome to episode 80 of Zapped to the Past. My name is Adrian Mills and I'm joined as ever by Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We're using the magazine Zapped 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we are in no way affiliated with Zapped 64 itself. This week, we're going to be starting our look at March 1988, and the first batch of games reviewed in issue 35 of Zapped 64, along with what was also going on in the UK singles chart that month. So Graham, what have we got going on this week?
In this refurbished pub turned swarthy new cocktail lounge, with a full menu of fancy liquid delights such as the champagne-fused Gonzo Bikini, the vodka-based Rubber Dub Trouble, the rum-enriched Jack's Black Eye, and the classic Pink Bunkadoo of an episode, we digest our weightiest tomes yet, slide into our apparently transparent cockpits, and head on a secret military mission in an allegedly fictional aeroplane with Project Stealthfighter, brave 100 levels of gauntlet-inspired walls, keys, and multicoloured rats in the nearly brand but well-named Demon Stalkers, scoff in abject disbelief at the juvenile and utterly rubbish shoot-'em-up crapola Zip, and head into side-scrolling Control Confusion in the interesting but underbaked conversion of the arcade Sidearms. If that subtle blend of creme de menthe, Jaeger, and red wine, otherwise known as the Twisted Brain Wrong, hasn't quite made your eyeballs sweat, we also ping and boing around the flick screen Spectrum-like nonsense of the unwanted sequel Eyeball 2, spend a day in the life of a running alien, getting absolutely nowhere and frustrated at the same time with the little green man, find an Albus inhaler and clear out our nasal passages for a first-class ticket to Osmium before making a greasy lasagna, preparing a barrage of witty one-liners, and heading into the wandering world of the sardonic cat in Garfield. Big fat hairy deal. It's not what you'd call rich pickings in this episode, but at least one of these games has a manual that can also double up as bog paper for a while. Now that's good wiping. Hey.
I know it's not good. Or is it? It might be good.
Who knows?
Who knows?
We don't know. We play them as we find them, and then we find them as we play them.
Absolutely. Usually buried deep, deep. Oh, they're buried so deep. But before we do that, as ever, as is our usual routine, with a new month, let us look at the cover.
Da, 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 da.
So the cover is issue 35. It says March 1988. It's £1.25 in our money. Deutschmarks 7.5, and also $3.50 to the US.
Oh, US market tapped.
Absolutely. Well tapped.
Well tapped. We're in.
What do you think of this cover, Graham?
It's obviously an homage in some weird way to a kind of 2001 type idea, isn't it?
It is,
where
yes.
the monolith is in the view of an astronaut on the moon, I'm guessing, or at least it looks like it.
Yeah, so I know a little bit about this. Mr. Rignall tweeted something about this recently. He was saying about his, I think it was in honor of Oliver Frey, he was saying about his top 10 covers, and he was saying that they were discussing this, and he suggested putting the monolith with Zapped 64 on it from 2001 in the reflection. So that was his suggestion, and Ollie Frey just went away and went, what, like this? And he was like, yeah.
It's obviously some game that we'll come across at some point, I suppose.
Apollo 18. I think that's coming along in either next 3 or 4 weeks. So it's going to be very slow, probably slow vectors landing on the moon, probably.
Yeah, you ruined it, didn't you? Is that the single the Police never released? Slow vectors on the moon. You're going to hate this game. Slow vectors on the moon. I will, if it's that.
Flickery graphics and no frame rate.
Walking on the moon.
You can go from Dizzo all the way to Lave.
Some may say... No, I'm getting carried away now.
Why didn't they start with a docking machine?
Yeah, with a bay.
80 episodes later, and we've still not forgot that.
We'll still be going as well. In 80 episodes' time, it will still be going.
Still be travelling to Dizzo.
It's a good cover, that. Classic Oliver Frey attention to detail there with the 18 on his spacesuit, and and also there's like a gold sheen to the visor of the astronaut's visor, which is what they are. They actually have a gold covering on them for something to do with radiation, I think, or maybe they just look cool. I don't know, but I really like that. It is a really good cover. That really, he captures movement really well. I love it. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's also as well. It's kind of it's harking to 2001 in it, and I like the way that the monolith has suddenly landed in between this person and the moon lander. Though he's not noticed it.
Yeah. Yes, it's quite good that, and I'm not
it.
sure if that's a moon or a planet or what that is, and is also reflecting there, but it's obviously a long way from home.
Very long way from home. Talking about games, so Apollo 18 covered Predator, Project Stealth Fighter is revealed. Graham.
Revealed. Yes.
And Ikara Warriors finally yomps in.
Is yomp a word? Is that a word? I think romp is a word, I know, but yomp?
Yomp? Do you yomp? What's it mean?
Can something yomp?
Yomps in. I don't know.
Yomps now.
It's now. Anyway. There's also another day at the arcades, so they've bogged off down to the arcades, and a free pull-out poster.
Of...
I don't know.
Just the words. It just says free pull-out poster when you pull it out. That's all that's on it. Just those words. It does exactly what it says. Thank you very much.
The quality of the posters has gone down somewhat.
It's free, isn't it? It's pull out. Oh, yeah. But I thought there'd be a picture of something.
There is a picture of the words free. Pull out.
You can put that on anything you like and pretend you're giving it away for free, and you can pull it out.
But don't do that. Don't pull it. You might get arrested.
Yeah, don't put it in your trousers.
Don't say we told you to do that.
We're denying all knowledge of that.
All knowledge.
We didn't do that.
Yeah, there's not really much to say about the cover. It's just good. It's well drawn, well drawn and well grown.
Yes, always good. And the curve he's got on the visor is really clever. I really think that really works.
Yes,
really
it does.
Clever stuff. Really clever stuff.
It is. It's nice.
Yep.
So there we go. That's your cover. That's that. Right. Should we get into some games?
I think we should.
Let's move on into our first game then. And Graham, don your stealth gear, get your fighting going, and tell us all about Project Stealth Fighter.
Big old thing, this, really. 3 pages in the magazine. This took three whole pages, which is ironic considering the manual takes another 66 to 70 pages of it.
The one I looked at was 120.
Yeah, I must have been looking at it's double pages, isn't it? So it's 120 pages.
Crazy. It
is crazy. This is a £19.95. I'm guessing a disc-based because there's lots of little loads. Gold medal. This is a gold medal. Is this our first gold medal of the...
I believe so. Yeah, I think so, yeah.
First gold medal. So it's a big old deal. 96% this achieved. 96%. Anyway.
Which means that they've lowered their scale for a gold medal. It used to be 97.
Right, okay. Well, maybe they have. I don't know. Maybe they did it just for this. It's coded by Jim Sinowski, Dan Chang, Edward N. Hill, and Edward N. Hill Jr., I nearly called him Junior Greg then. And then Greg Tavares. I think those are principally the same people behind the other Microprose games. Graphics are by Michael Hare and Michel Mahan. I think that's the male spelling of Michel as well. So interesting. You like the French male spelling. Michel.
Possibly.
The design is Jim Sinowski. And Jim Sinowski did it. You've reached the you've reached the answer machine of Jim Sinowski. And Arnold Hendrick. And the musician here is Ken Lagace. Jim Sinowski is involved around this.
Officer Grabowski.
You have reached of Officer Jim Sinowski. Anyway, enough of that. So this is this is a heavy thing. Heavyweight. Heavy. And you know what? I am not going to dive too far into the heaviness because of a number of different reasons.
It's too heavy.
Well, this is not just a flight simulator. This is not just an advert for a popular supermarket. This is more than that. And there's a lot to this. And to try and cover this could almost be an episode in its own right. This is massively heavyweight. I mean, the instruction manual for this is absolutely crazy to the point where they had government specialists in their office checking that they weren't revealing secrets of something that doesn't even exist. Because the fun thing about all of this, there's 2 ways of looking at this. So the F-19 is the designation for a hypothetical US fighter aircraft that's never actually been officially acknowledged.
Ooh. And
has engendered much speculation that it might refer to a type of aircraft whose existence is classified still. Dun, 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 dun. So does that mean it exists? Well, there was a classic comedian at one point that said, because there was a lot of this, and this game actually falls in as part of this. This was all potentially propaganda to try and scare the Russians at the time. It was the big sort of Cold War enemy at the time.
Mhm.
but also to put the fear of God that they had this super advanced, invisible stealth fighter, which they didn't actually have in that way at that time. But this is part of the propaganda machine. And a famous comedian said the best solution to this problem is just to tell them that you've got thousands of them and they're everywhere. So. No, we've got one or two of these things. We've had them for years. They're everywhere. By the way, the unification for the numbering system is in the US for fighter planes, and it's amazing what you discover when you read this manual of this epic manual. It's like reading The Lord of the Rings. Is that US fighters have been designated by consecutive numbers, beginning with the F-1 Fury. The F-13 has never been assigned because it's considered unlucky. So obviously there's different designations for different kinds of planes, but principally fighter planes, F, bombers, B, that kind of thing. After the F-18 Hornet, the next announced aircraft was the YF-20 Tiger Shark, and the US Air Force proposed the F-19 designation for the fighter, but Northrop requested the F-20 instead. I won't talk any more about that because I can see you glazing over, and I've already fallen asleep 3 times.
Absolutely, we've lost like 1,000 listeners.
The problem with all of this is that this is the level of detail beyond the level of detail that this game goes into. So, and principally, this is all constructed around this made up. Well, not made. I don't know. Is it made up? I don't know. There is actually a F-117 stealth fighter that does actually exist, and there's also a stealth bomber. Who knows if this is a real thing nowadays? Anyway, it doesn't matter. We've probably got I don't know, see-through super fighters, drones, and everything. So this is essentially a really heavyweight microprose flight simulator follow-up to all their other heavyweight flight simulator type things. So this is the not follow-on, but the follow-on game from Gunship, I believe.
Yes,
and then what was the other Microprose simulation one in between? It's the thingy one, wasn't it? Was it Microprose, the one that was like Commando, but a thinking man's Commando, I think was.
Oh,
was
Airborne Ranger.
Airborne Ranger. So this is along in their long line of, let's create a game. All right, how can we make it fun? Well, the first thing we need to do is so thoroughly research the subject matter that we're going to do this game about that it actually becomes controversial. So that's what they do here. So it's obviously, you are the pilot of a stealth fighter, or you will be in the game. Another simulation. You can choose from 4 different campaigns, which is, I think, Persia, North Cape, Libya. They're of their time, and Central Europe, I think, Europe. And obviously, there's loads of different mission types. There's Cold War, Limited War, Conventional War. You can choose which kind of armaments it's a microprose flight simulator. Mm-hmm. So you're going to spend the first percentage of this loading lots of little sequences in and answering lots of questions about something that if you haven't read the extensive manual, really kind of not really going to know what you're really doing. So it is a game that requires extensive reading. And I really mean that, because to get the most out of this, you would need to have done that. Mm-hmm. I'll come back to why that's going to be a problem for me with this game shortly. So there's the whole bunch of different missions and objectives. I actually went straight for the jugular in this, and I just wanted to get into the flight simulator. I wanted to fly the plane as quickly as possible. And you can do that. There's a way you could just go, right, just skip to the front kind of thing. Just go for these. If there's like a little guide and they're quick flight options in the manual, so do this, you'll be in the air. This game came with an overlay originally that would overlay over the Commodore 64 keyboard. So without that, it's actually, I sort of got the controls that I had off a couple of the different websites I'd found on one screen and the game on another, and periodically just kind of tried to pause it as best I could to sort of figure out, because there are so many controls on this game. And it's amazing that they have them, but there's loads of them. You can't just take off. And I started in, I forget even where I was, because I actually when I first loaded it up and went through it, I got the code wrong, because you have to identify, as usual, the security method on this is a 70-page book of airplane schematics. So you got to dive through all of them. I got the wrong one because they all look the bloody same when you're tired. So I got the wrong one anyway. So it just started, but it didn't actually stop me playing the game. It just put me into a level that I think I had very little control over, but I was able to get in the air and fly around a bit and get a bit of a feel of flying the airplane and stuff. Fired a few missiles off and just sort of, took it for a bit of I would say a Firefox style run around the sky, really, not the film Firefox, because then eventually I just crashed on what I thought was an ice cube, what do you call them? A glacier. You've got a whole bunch of options for this that you have to go through, select your type of mission and everything else. And that does mean that you've got a whole bunch of different ways you can sort of come at this game. And I think really the main way you're going to come at this is you're going to have to read and play the manual. There's a really, really clever AI throughout this game when you get into it. This is famous for its like landmark AI for this title. And so when you're doing the different missions, whether you are doing the spy missions, which are quite clever, whether you're doing the because there's some missions that you have to fly and you have to sort of take, not photographs, but recon missions. There's other ones where you have to take out specific targets and things like that. There's others where you just have to not engage with there's quite a lot of scope in all of these different missions. And as with all these Microprose games, they play out in very complicated ways to the point when you get to the actual game, you have to sort of juggle all the different parameters and then go through them, avoiding some of the sort of missile strikes, surface-to-air missiles, getting tagged on radars. You've got different weapon systems you can use. You've got all sorts of different scenarios that play out. It's quite a complicated game. And I didn't get so far into all the different complications because it would take forever to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Forever.
Mm-hmm.
Just the dogfighting section alone in the manual is 30 pages. Just that section.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, I feel like, we said this before about Gunship, but I feel with this one particular, this was the most in-depth I've ever seen them go about anything. This was on a whole, I mean, this had tactics of flying an aeroplane. I think you could actually give this manual to a pilot and they were probably looking and go, you know what, that's actually pretty accurate. Do you fancy going in an F-19? You go, yeah. He goes, it doesn't exist, you idiot. Get out.
It doesn't exist. You've learned how to dogfight in a plane that doesn't exist. Oh,
No,
does it?
We'll go to the airport now. We'll get in the Spruce Moose. Off you go. So you've got, again, like I said, there's a whole loads of different scenarios, and in a classic Microprose tradition that you can play, and then obviously if you complete the missions, then you get, I think you get rankings in this one, a bit similar to Gunship, but there's all sorts of graphic in between those parts that are really well drawn, like selecting screens. Even the intro sequence is kind of weird when you see this sort of version of a stealth fighter scroll across the screen with this really gloomy music that sounds like it is from The Shining, but it's actually a sort of a classical piece of music. So I forget what it's called now.
Yeah.
So it's got all of those things, as well as all of that complexity. You've got all of the really clever AI. If you encounter an object and it targets you and you get away, they will come after you and try and follow you, and they'll follow you around, and they'll even try and sort of get in front of you, and they'll try and predict where you're going to be. It's really clever stuff that's going on underneath all of that. And so I take all of that into account. Graphically, I'm going all the way up to the point when you're in the plane, but all the graphics up to that point, classic Microprose traditions, classic Microprose look. They really do look the part. There's a lot of them, lots of little, like I say, the loading isn't actually that bad, lots of micro loads, but the graphics, the payloads that you get, it all sort of plays, and it has this really good thematic that if you're into that kind of thing and you get into the space of this game, you're going to love it. However, as with all of these games, the production and the packaging and the game dev, you cannot question it. Even at full price, there's so much here. It is value for money. The game itself has got so many options. You could play this a million different ways, for a million different ways and means. The manual itself would take you a good while to get through. It's so heavy. It's just really dense and it's really heavily written as well. There's no fun or levity in that. It's not like, there's no goofiness. It's absolutely dead, steadily serious stuff. Okay, I get that. It's fine. There's just so much here for this. And I kind of admired it. I thought the selection, like I said, the selection screen graphics, the graphics for the wider parts, they all look really nice. They're all well drawn. Loading's decent. All the way up to that point, selecting the option's great. It's not a game that drags its heels either, because I think you can fly pretty rapidly when you can be in it and you can be flying around pretty quickly. You can get into that. If that's the kind of experience you want, you can do that. But you really need to think about these missions you're going on. It's not that you can just fly off and target things at random. You've got very limited armaments. You've got very limited supplies of fuel. You have to think about these. So it's a little bit like that other game we played, which was the one with I was going to say hovercraft, but it was the hydrofoiled one, where you had to think a little bit more about your tactics and your strategy as well as everything else.
Was it Pegasus?
Yeah, Pegasus, yeah. So I think the keyboard overlay missing was a hindrance for me. And without that, a replay and getting into the headspace for me was a bit more difficult on this. So I did have this way back in the day as well, believe it or not. I never think I ever played it more than twice, but I had it. Now, I have made no secret, I have a general dislike for vector flight sims. They're not my cup of tea at all. There's some incredible things going on in this game, though, it has to be said. The AI that I experienced, I think it was actually way smarter than me playing this game. I think it didn't take long to outsmart me for an AI because it's that good and I'm so crap at this game that it was an unfair advantage immediately, really. The missions and the nature of the missions in them are really, really good and really thorough and really well researched and really well done. So there's so much to go at and so much thought, so cerebral, quite incredible, really, especially when you think that it's all completely made up as well. So all of that stuff. Or is it? Selection screens and the gameplay required to get into this, and this is a game you have to really learn and take your time to learn it. So, going into the controls, learning how to dogfight, the more you put into this game, the more you're going to get out of it. And I don't get on with them because I always feel like at the end of a long series of sections, configurations, options, choosing things, going for all of that, going for all the drama, everything else, when you get to the actual game, they all look the bloody same. They all look the same.
Mm-hmm.
So it ends up with the same sounds, the same experiences, and because of that, the same bloody issues. So now, I think sometimes I'm beginning to think these are more my issues than the game's issues. The game is it's really clever what it packs into C64. I mean, let's be fair, it's an amazing thing, it is. But at the end of all of those options, you're presented with a juddery vector-based flight simulator, and I just can't get my head into the space of that, equating that to anything other than what it is for me. But there's so much extra stuff in here that brings value to this, that I know that for people who are really into these kind of flight simulators and this kind of experience, and all the espionage and subterfuge that comes with it being a stealth fighter and all the brouhaha around the fact that it's this secret thing and all the rest of it, I think it just comes down in the end to the kind of player and kind of games you like, as much as that's just, it's a straight black and white choice. If you like flight simulators, this is an amazing one. And if you like really complicated, really lengthy explanations of instructions, this is going to be, this it doesn't get any better than this. This is the one. This is the big one. But for me, I'm from the run and gun, bash and smash, beat and retreat, kick and punch, shooty things, bashy things. I like that. That's the games that appeal for me. There's some really deeply immersive stuff in here for those that can stand that. And I actually stand a little bit in admiration of those people that have the dexterity to read these manuals and take their time to really learn to play something that when they go through all of that is just
Yep.
for half an hour. And then the occasional and go, that was the greatest gaming experience of my life. I'm like, okay, I admire you. Your commitment to that is admirable, but I'm going to go and I'm just going to go and smash something with me smashy game or shoot something a bit easier. I have amazing admiration because, they have more patience and a greater level of gratification in things than I possibly do. I'm instant gratification guy. These flight sims, I'm not going to spend time reading a 90-page manual, 160-page manual, whatever it was to get into this. But I'm sure somebody will, but not for me, though. Not for me. Amazing to look at, but I'm sure you loved it, though.
Yeah. Sometimes me and you are different reviewers, and sometimes we're exactly the same. And so I did what you did. I came at this, I thought, do I look at this from a technical perspective or whether I enjoyed it? So, okay, because we sometimes are guilty of coming at this and go, it's crap, vector crap.
I didn't want to do that with this.
No, I didn't either, because we've done it in the past, and it's like, okay, fair enough, but let's give it where it's due. If it's the former, so if I look at this from a technical perspective, and it's technically very good, and all those who like a bit of 8-bit flying and fighting are going to get proper wet in the cockpit area over this. The wealth of options. What?
Wet in the cockpit.
Yeah. They are. The wealth of options, the style of the whole thing is top notch, as you've said. Great presentation throughout. Really good title sequence. The little visuals that play out upon finishing a mission. I pressed left shift in my first mission, which just ejected me, and then I just got the visual sequence of that is just me looking really depressed, and there's two other guys on the other side of the screen looking at me going like whispering at each other, pointing at me. I was like, oh, that's what they think of me. I didn't mean to. I just pressed the wrong button. So yeah, to the manual that comes with it, it's all top notch. And like even at £20, this is if this was your thing, then you would consider that £20 very well spent.
Yep. As
this is going to keep you playing for ages as you wage war against the aggressors in your state-of-the-art, non-existent aircraft.
Shh. Controversial.
Shh. Absolutely. We're going to get visited, that, for reviewing this. We're going to get asked questions. But if I look at this from the second question, did I enjoy it? Well, I liked everything bar the playing of this. Keyboard overlays and lots of controls and front end that just don't disguise another vector graphics, blue, green, yellow, and black affair. This time with a slightly different HUD and a slightly different engine sound. A little bit more to some as we've heard.
Yeah. There was a bit of filtering going on.
Yeah, the C64 is just not built to these kind of games justice. And so once again, I got very bored very quickly. And yes. I know it's, as you said, I know it's probably me rather than the game. Maybe it is, I don't know. And I can 100% understand how impressive getting something like this running on a 1 megahertz processor is. Don't get me wrong. From a technical perspective, wow, poof. Yeah. There's only so much waiting I can handle as slow black lines move about a blue sea and I miss another bombing run or get buzzed by another vector graphics plane. Yeah, these just will never be for me. I'm like you. I can take cerebral, I can take it, but these just don't do it for me. They just don't. I find them very dull, very monotonous, and no amount of pre-flight whiz-bangery or whatever sort of thing is going to disguise that once you boot into that cockpit, it looks like a blue rectangle with a green, a blue rectangle, but a green rectangle, whatever it is.
Yeah.
With some black lines moving about.
Couldn't agree more.
So Project Stealth Fighter for me was just yeah, okay. Back then, you'd be like, oh, it's amazing. But I never liked them back then. I didn't.
No,
It's just
no.
not my kind of game. This isn't me going, oh, look at it now, it looks crap. I looked at it then and went, it looks boring.
Yep. And you were right. You were
I
right.
was. About the saddle, about everything.
That's right. So we'll have to leave a message for Jim Sanowski on his answer machine. Say, sorry, Jim. Somebody likes your game, but it's not me.
And it ain't us. Doesn't get the Zapped to the Past gold medal, that's for sure.
No, 3 pages were dedicated to that.
I know.
And that's, I know it's given the game justice in Zap. I mean, it's amazing that they went to 3 pages, but I suppose you couldn't do any less. There's no way you could give that any less because it's so dense. Just to give it a 1-page review would be too light. 2 pages, not enough. 3 pages, about the minimum you could really do for that.
It is,
such a
yeah.
whopper,
I'm surprised
isn't
they
it?
didn't go
It's a
to
heavy one.
4.
They probably did originally. It's probably a full. You actually a pull out, so you pull out the pages. It's 90 pages long, and the review just goes on and on.
Yeah, it's just a picture of Project Stealth Fighter on the cover, and that's it. That's all there is this month. Just Project Stealth Fighter.
So much detail in. I mean, that manual is astonishing for its detail. It's available online. I mean, we'll put the links in the show notes. Go and check it out. Don't take my word for it. If you fancy wondering what an invisible and fantasy aeroplane is like to fly and dogfight, well, there's a manual for it. Mad
Did you
as that
get
sounds.
the keyboard layout picture as well? There's an easy one. Yeah. So I was using that. I had that next to it where I was playing it. So
yeah, so I got a one screen. I had the game on the other, but once I got through all the options and figured all that out, then when I was in the aeroplane, such as I was like, okay. And then it's just that unexciting for me going, right, I need to target, acquired, press M, missiles, choose your missile, F1, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, which missile do you want? Sidewinder or 2? Now, and it's like, oh, okay, I've got to fight. Oh, you missed. That's because it took me 10 minutes.
I tried to drop a bomb and I pressed release when it was over my target. It went, the lack of boom says you missed. I flew around.
Lack of boom?
Somebody said something like that. It said the lack of something may indicate that you missed. I'm like, okay, let's try again then. And then over the target area again, dropped a bomb. Now you missed again. Yeah. I just was like, look, I knew what to expect with this, but I went in with an open mind to try and think, maybe this is the one. But like the name itself, the fun in this was too stealthy for me to spot. Yeah.
I mean, it gets to the point, doesn't it, with the frame rate being what it is, that it does feel like a slow motion camera's taking a trip round Kaplunk. Not my fun. Not what I call fun.
It's not what I call fun. No, not in the slightest.
No, but somebody does.
So somebody does. Somebody gets proper wet.
Yeah.
In the cockpit area.
Damp in the cockpit. It's damp in the cockpit. I know.
I'm playing Project Stealth Fighter and really enjoying it.
Yeah. Go and watch Top Gun instead. You'll probably get more out of that if you like.
Or the new one, because the new one's very good.
Yeah. So that's what I meant. The new one. Yeah.
Very good. There we go. Project Stealth Fighter was never going to be our cup of tea. Never ever.
No, but it's somebody's cup of tea, and that's important.
Absolutely. Someone's cup of tea and chocolate biscuit.
Yep. Go for it.
Go for it. Let's move along stealthily.
Shh.
Into our next one. This has got to be good with this name. Demon Stalkers.
It's not an album by Dokken, then.
I wish it was. In the old days, Graham, the land was peaceful.
Yeah, it always is.
Magicians, drunk on their own power and led by the Archmage Arthur.
Oh,
not King Arthur. I'm imagining Dudley Moore, so he's always drunk.
Well, he's drunk on his own juice.
Yeah, they created a series of catacombs beneath the fabled marbled vaults until 99 levels were completed beneath the surface. The 100th level is to be the crowning achievement. But alas, they had dug too deep, and they unearthed the demon Calvrak, who would go on to become known as Arthur's Bane.
And just call him Calvrak. That's his name. Don't make up another name for him. He's got a name, Calvrak.
Calvrak.
Look, we're going to call you Arthur's Bane. My name's Calvrak, thanks.
No.
Don't renaming me.
No, you're Arthur's Bane now. No, I'm not.
No, I'm not. I'm Calvrak.
Calvrak. Anyway, with his evil army, Calvrak swept up through the catacombs. They had overtaken them all, causing a dark spell to befall the land. Yes. Arthur, with his last remaining allies, Furrowfoot, Grindelwald, Imelda, and Bloodaxe, hopefully not Brian Bloodaxe, tried one last attempt to retake the catacombs and beat back the demon, but it was a naff effort, and they were never heard of again.
Naff effort?
I might have even put that bit in.
It just suddenly lost its dungeoniness.
But it was a naff effort.
Naff effort. Naff off.
Legend tells of 4 awesome weapons scattered throughout the catacombs, and for many a year, no one ventured near Doomfane as the marble vaults became known. Things are getting renamed all over the place in this intro, and I'm not quite sure I can handle it.
You off to the catacombs? No, they've renamed it Doomfane. I'm off down there.
Are you off to see Calvrak? No, I'm off to see Arthur's Bane. In Doomfane. Stop rhyming stuff. Anyway, so yes, until you showed up, a demon stalker. Are you destined to defeat Calvrak and restore prosperity to the land? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's get into it.
Exciting, that.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's good intro, isn't it? I should do like audiobooks.
Yeah.
This is an EA game written and created by Microforte, who consist of Stephen Wang, John Reedy, John De Megaretti, and Stephen Lewis. Stop giggling at the back there. Stop giggling.
I shouldn't be laughing at Wang, but I did. Sorry, Mr. Wang. Sorry,
Wang. The game opens up with some options. 1 or 2 players, the level editor, and the ability to load a saved game. Pick 1 or 2 players and you're in, but not before you have to enter the second disc and begin your descent through the catacombs. 99 levels await you on your quest to kill Calvrak. Can you do it? Probably not. This is a Gauntlet clone, if you hadn't guessed by this point. You know, the clue was in the going down through 99 levels. Through and through, it's a Gauntlet clone through and through, but in worse scrolling trousers and crapper graphics and sound. It's not subtle about it either. It really isn't. As far as Gauntlet clones go, this is Gauntlet-y to the max. Once the levels start, you're in the greyest of grey mazes and are set upon by that fantasy stalwart, hordes of rats. Now, some of them are white and some are yellow. I think it's harder to kill the yellow ones, I think. You kill
They're
these.
like the king rats.
The king rats, yeah. So the things you got to do, you kill the monsters, you collect the keys, open the doors with the keys, you kill some more rats, you pick up some food to top up your energy, you find some treasure, and eventually find some stairs leading down. Sound familiar?
Sounds awfully familiar.
Yeah. The screen is split with the top 2/3 giving the standard scrolling view from above, the gauntlet look above, and the UI at the bottom showing your health, your score, the number of keys collected, and 3 icons that represent your armor, strength, and magic power. Collecting certain objects as you progress through the catacombs can increase these, or they can also reduce them too, so be careful what you collect. This is very standard Gauntlet apart from those icons, but the game is let down by many things. Most of all, some terrible scrolling and poor visuals overall. The scrolling is headache-inducing. Going up at an angle sees it judder to the side and then either up or down depending on which direction you're moving. So it doesn't go in a diagonal. It sort of goes to the right and then up. And it judders in both ways. It's some of the worst scrolling I've ever seen in a game. I know what you're like. I can imagine what this did to you. It must have popped an embolism in your head. But
didn't make me happy.
No, I can imagine it didn't. But anyway, it's awful. Coupled with the floor design, which is some wavy lines. So it's like they've got this grey design. It's like these sort of angular lines at like a seascape or whatever sort of thing, just constantly all across the ground. And this way that this scrolls and they move, it's awful. It's nausea-inducing. I actually felt quite seasick playing this. This then leads to being able to line up shops properly because of this crappy scrolling. Because the enemy sprites, they kind of wiggle around in the scrolling of the screen, and nothing seems to line up properly or feel solid. It's just bad. When we played games like Gauntlet, Avenger, and all those other ones, I can't think of some of the other ones, even some of the crappy ones probably. But the ones, scrolling's not hard to do, smooth scrolling. It should just be there, just done. But not in this. The sprites are quite poor. Your hero's just a little guy in a jumper. That's what it looked like to me. It just looked like he was running around in a jumper. And the rats and plants, I only didn't get very far into this. All I got attacked by was rats and plants. They attack you in the early stages. They're recognisable. They're a bit poorly realised, though, and they're not particularly very good, I didn't think. The rats hoard around you, but there are also signs to find dotted around the maze as you go around them, which give you hints and clues as to how to take on the monsters and warn you of things not to do. Like in the second level down, it says, don't shoot the plants because that makes them all come alive. So you got to be careful where you shoot and things like that. The one good thing about this, I did think, it's not a one-way trip. Going down a level will lead to stairs. Going down a level and then exploring that bit, you find stairs that lead back up to the level you've just been on, and that sort of leads you into like secret areas in the previous that you couldn't get to. So levels have got to be crossed multiple times and through various means in order to progress. I thought that was quite good. Each level is a multi-load as well. Probably comes out in a bit, but so you're going up and down rather than just continuously find the exit, go down to the next one, like so in Gauntlet style. So this has a bit more coherency within its level design, and that is probably the best thing about this. That there is some planning you have to do as you progress through the levels. Because everything else is Gauntlet. It's just Gauntlet. There's no two ways around this. You can play 2-player, but it's just Gauntlet. The sprites are poor. The scrolling is lackluster, if a nice word for it, and it leads to headaches. And the shooting of enemies feels poor and limp. If they had fixed the visuals, and it feels, what's the word I'm looking for here? Leaden, slow. It doesn't feel snappy. If they'd made the feedback a bit snappier and sorted out that bloody scrolling and done a bit more, it got some graphics wise. I'm not normally a graphics hub, but here they just don't play they just don't look very nice. The notion of going back and forth through the dungeons could be more appealing, but the sort of early like Diablo-esque or something like that or whatever. That notion that this is a fully realized world where you've got to navigate up, down, go down a couple of levels, come back up, go down, and you're finding ways through and all something. That's a nice idea, but it's just they've not done that, and those presentational issues drag this down quite a lot. So any desire to progress through the 100 levels to kill Calvrak is quickly lost, and the off key is swiftly pressed. Okay, so there's not a lot else to say about this. I did look, though, if they'd done anything else. Now, we have another Gauntlet clone by this lot, exactly this lot, called Fire something or other, Fire King, coming next year. So we'll see how that goes. Let's hope that they've learned how to scroll the screen properly by then, because this could have been all right. There's some nice design ideas, but it's let down by poor implementation. That's what I thought. What about you?
Very similar, actually. Very, very similar. It's obviously, like you say, Gauntlet variant, plays a lot like Gauntlet. I thought, like you, it had some neat ideas in there. I quite like the approach they've taken because of the little staircases, little details like that. And because of that, it's strange, we're very similar. I thought it felt a little bit more coherent than Gauntlet because of that. The logic of the game, the construction of the game, the descent down the sort of various levels, it felt like that was a more coherent path than just wandering around like you do in Gauntlet.
It felt like a proper world.
Yeah. All good things. Sadly let down by flicky sprites and terrible implementation, including bad scrolling and just bad code, which is a shame. I think there was probably something in there. The enemy types are a bit weird. Like you say, the graphics weren't good. It's all, parts of it are really good ideas. It's just not, and it is coherent as a game in terms of its logic, just not in the way it looks. It's let down by that quite badly. And it's quite late to the dungeon, isn't it, this really? We've already had... The trouble is, Gauntlet clones, most of them haven't been very good, with the exception of Druid, I think, really. Most of them have been kind of a letdown. This is just... so you're not really going to ever get compared with Gauntlet. You're just going to be compared with all the games that aren't as good as Gauntlet. And Gauntlet wasn't that great to begin with on the C64. So I think had they spent a little bit more time, you might have got away with this. But as soon as you started getting more involved and renaming things in the story, you think, this... something rotten here, and it is. It's the look of it. So sad. 65% it got, didn't it, in Zap?
It did, yes.
Probably about right for this, actually. I think that gives it a good... There's parts of the game that are good, but there's a lot that isn't. Yeah,
it's 2/3 there, but the playing of this is painful and unpleasant.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. So you want to kind of like it because there's some nice ideas, but it's a game that puts you off. There you go. That's Demon Stalkers. £10 as well it was, full price. Not for me. Let's move on. Let's get into our next one. We've still got two this half. Let's see what they are. Graham, Zip. Tell us about Zip.
Zippity zip zip. $1.99 special this from, I think it was it Powerhouse, this one, I think?
Possibly, yeah. So the Powerhouse on Bug Bite or someone or other.
I think it said Powerhouse logo, I think, on its crap title screen, because it's, let's be fair, this is not good, is it? 16% it achieved in the old Zapparoo. Coded by Darren Watts, graphics by Darren Watts, title screen by Darren Watts, or Daz, as he likes to be known. Musician Jay Derritt. This is so bad. You're the part of a spaceship. You've been sent to the 5 alternative worlds of the Alpha Centauri, of which Alpha Centauri's, it doesn't matter. I'm not even going to explore the logic of it. And you got to blow aliens up. So you got to fly over. It's basically, think Warhawk. It's a kind of a really, really crap Warhawk, a buggy crap Warhawk. You got to fly. It's a vertical scrolling shooter of a sort. You got to fly from the bottom going upwards. Enemies, such as they are, will hump towards you periodically in various kind of crap formations. You can shoot scenery, won't help you or achieve anything. The only saving grace, you can hold down the fire button to shoot more rapidly, I think. But that's it, really. Periodically, you'll get menaced by giant letters, which are supposed to give you power-ups, but I didn't actually find they did anything other than they didn't really give me any, because the extra speed ones did not speed me up massively. Smart bombs worked on extra lives, but if you get shot or you get hit by an alien, obviously you lose one of your 3 lives. That will happen repeatedly because the collision detection on this is off the chart crazy and broken. So it's utter buggy shit, this game. It's just badly bugged, really badly bugged. It's just, I was playing it, I just kept blowing up for no reason. I'd shoot enemies. There's this really weird pattern that keeps happening with these enemies sort of scroll along and then sort of elongate across the screen.
Yeah.
They're not even in wave patterns or in sine waves. They just sort of come along and then go along in a sort of in a line where they've just been like duplicated badly left and right, not even at the same rate. And you might shoot the one that's in front of you, but even if you do, you're probably going to crash into the invisible shadow that it leaves, or maybe not, or just blow
the
up for no reason.
explosion. You die if you crash the explosions, don't you? Which is
It's just bad. The graphics here are really crap. So really bad attempts at some kind of base relief. But you'll know from the minute you see the title screen that graphics and coding and everything else are not Darren Watts' greatest thing. That's not his no. I'm sure he's brilliant at all sorts of other things, but probably not this as much. And it sort of shows here. I thought this was crap. And there's so many other shooters. You just buy Warhawk for one night. If you want this kind of thing done well, with better music and sounds and everything else for the same price, you would buy Warhawk. Why on earth would anyone buy this? And I suppose you might get away with some of the screen grabs might look okay on the back of the box if there are any, and you might be duped. But and according to the credits on Moby Games, this is by Alistair Darren Watts. So I don't know if that's his. I don't know. But does it matter? It's rubbish, utter rubbish, waste of time, money, and everything else. And I didn't like it, but why would I? Because it's rubbish. So not for me. This, which, I mean, it's just rubbish.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, unplayable nonsense.
It's rubbish.
At first, I couldn't speak to anything beyond about the 4th wave of enemies. As you move so slowly, you can't shoot them as they home in on you. Those home in on ones, it's like, oh, dead.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
Certain death within seconds. Until I realised that the letters on the levels correspond to power-ups, which is great, but the first 2 that appear are out of reach of your bullets. Hey!
Yep.
Which is stupid. The
Yes, it
graphics
is.
are glitchy, a horrible raster flicker at the top. Sprites are just sprites for sprite's sake. The game moves at snail's pace. There's nothing satisfying in any of this.
Nope,
Yeah, it's £2, but so is Warhawk. And there's countless better shoot-ups. I would imagine things like Lightfalls and everything are in the budget range now, probably somewhere.
Yeah.
And also,
gotta
as
be.
well, don't forget we've looked at loads of shmups that Gavin Rayburn put out, and they were all better than this.
Yeah, and they're better, and also just finished. This I'm sure this isn't finished. It didn't.
I
feel
don't think it's finished yet. It's releasing this in this state is just a joke. It's a broken facsimile of a shmup. And why is it called Zip? Stupid name, stupid game.
Yep.
What does Zip?
Yep.
What's Zip got to do with anything? Is it supposed to be zippy?
No idea.
You know,
No
are
idea.
Are you being piloted by someone within Rainbow?
Just even the language and the tonality of it. You've been sent to the brother worlds of Alpha Centauri. The brother worlds of Alpha Centauri. No. Alpha Centauri's not a world.
No, it's not.
Just get lost, you stupid thing. Zip off. Zippity-doo don't.
Is Alpha Centauri a star?
Yes.
It's a star, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, yes.
Oh, maybe it's been lost in translation or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But this was really bad. It's one of the worst things we've looked at. Although,
Yeah, in
maybe not the worst
ages.
thing we'll look at this week.
I don't think it is, but it's utterly dog egg.
It is utterly crap. You can
Yep.
zip off.
Yep.
In the words of Mr. Miyagi, no zip on. There we go. Zip crap. 16%. Too much. Really too
Yeah,
much.
Not wrong.
Let's move along. We've got one left. So next, Sidearms, or to give it its full name, Sidearms Hyperdyne.
Yep.
If you want that, this is an arcade conversion. It's that time again. Earth is under threat from an evil alien force, empire, a race, whatever, take your pick. And only you and your mate, if they join in, can save the day. In this case, the evil empire is the Boson.
Boson.
The Boson. And you can play as either Lieutenant Henry or Sergeant Sanders, or both with 2 players, and you can go and kick some Boson ass. So there you go. That's the plot. Sidearms Hyperdyne originated in the arcade, created by Capcom in 1986. It is very reminiscent of Capcom's earlier 1985 game, Section Z, or Section Z, I guess it would be over there. And in fact, borrows quite a lot from that, just in a more souped-up style. Indeed, it seems to be the second in this loose trilogy, because the third game, Forgotten Worlds, comes later. So this is actually a trilogy of games, starting with Section Z,
Oh, I did not know that.
Sidearms Hyperdyne, and Forgotten Worlds coming later. I think it's a kind of loose trilogy. I got that info from
Like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, exactly. I got that info from the arcade. I think it's the Arcade Imperfect book.
Oh, excellent.
So I've got that down here. Actually. Let me just quote it properly.
Adrian is bending down.
Yeah, it's Andrew Fisher's
Now
Arcade
he's
Imperfect.
bent
Excellent book.
up again.
And he does mention that in there. But I had looked at Section Z first, and I was like, it's just the same game almost. Just obviously it looks nicer now. But there you go. So that's the origination of this. I did bend down slightly there, yes. Anyway, the arcade game consists of levels that are separated by bosses, but it is continuously scrolling. So the game pauses whilst you fight a boss, and upon completion, scrolls seamlessly into the next level. Doesn't have like a level complete screen or anything like that. It just continuously keeps on going.
Keep on trucking.
Yeah, there seems to be 8. I had a look on YouTube. There's no way I'm ever going to play through this. I'm not brilliant. There seems to be 8 main stages to the game in the arcade, and these mostly scroll from left to right as you go about shooting everything. But sometimes they also scroll vertically as well. So there are some vertical scrolling sections within the arcade game as well. There are multiple power-ups to collect, such as 3-way firing, lasers, and shield balls, I don't know what you call them, sort of thing, that orbit around you and protect you from damage, along with speed-ups to help navigate the array of enemies better. The controls are interesting in the arcade in that whilst this is a continuously scrolling game, to the right or down, you have a button to fire to the right and another button to fire to the left at any time, along with another button to select the power-up that is lit up in the bar along the bottom. So this is all in the arcade game. The graphics are big, bright and bold, the action is fast, and the music is stirring in the arcade. It's an arcade game that I have a lot of affection for. I really like this in the arcade. It's got a good feel to it. There's a really good feel. It's classic Capcom mid-80s arcade shooter.
You could sort of get somewhere in it a bit as well, couldn't you? On a couple of 10p's. It felt like you were really getting quite far into it.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, it felt, you could at least get past that first boss and into the second level and get going. And so with all that in mind, we come to the C64 version. This was released by Go, and it was developed for Probe Software by Linden and Associates, and is some form of production from Pacific Data Works International. Very fancy names going on there.
Fancy
That sounds
lady.
like a bunch of lawyers or solicitors.
It does, probably is.
That have made this. Anyway, it's a semi-decent loading screen. It's a bit bland, but it's okay. It's passable. It's not a loading scream. It's okay. But once the game loads, the first thing that you notice is the reedy, weedy, weak version of the arcade tune.
Just a bit.
The arcade, I don't understand this. This needed a decent C64 musician to step in here and do the duty, but it has not happened. That's a shame because the music in the arcade works to add atmosphere to the blasting. It's unusual, but because if we look at what we got when Hubbard did the Commando music, how much of the enjoyment in that game comes from playing to that tune, and we've said it loads of time how great tunes can lift average games into an upper echelon. And I think that this game deserved better than the music we get here because it's new, 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 new. It's like it's big, bombastic. We need something good. Anyway, we don't have it here. It's annoying. The title screen of this shows a bombed city, and it invites you to press fire to start. Nicely, pressing either joystick, port 1 or 2, will start the game with you playing the character assigned to that port. That's quite good. And of course, pressing on both will initiate the 2-player mode, so that's also cool. You can just get into it quite easily and quite quickly. You can also select the difficulty mode from easy, normal, or difficult, which I thought was another nice touch. You don't normally see that on arcade ports, but it's quite nice to see, so I like that. Once started, the game begins, and it looks kind of like Sidearms, only through a C64 lens. So you're not going to get that snappy, brisk, vibrant arcade style, and what you're going to get is slightly muted, but it looks like Sidearms. Our heroes blast onto the screen to the right, from the left to the right, so that's quite nice. We're not just starting in the middle of nowhere, as we've seen on quite a few of these arcade conversions. It starts properly, you come on from the left and you get shooting. We are lacking the name entry and intro from the arcade game though, but it's not a deal breaker really. The C64 version starts off, it's very blue, but then so is the arcade really, so it's all right. So most of the components of the arcade version seem to be present and correct. At the top we have our score for both players and the high score, and at the bottom we have our power-up bar. Now, picking your weapon from the bar has been removed from this. Like, it seems to be different from the arcade. So I did play the arcade version as well for this, just to have a look at the pair of them. And so in this, and it's so that's changed. I'll come to how in a bit, but it's not the only thing that has changed. And it's here that the differences for me start to count a bit. So the C64, as we know, really only has one fire button. So it cannot do the 2-button firing in either direction of the arcade version. So what happens is that moving left or right automatically changes your direction that you are facing to go to that way. So if you move to the left, you will face to the left. If you move to the right, you will face to the right. In the arcade, that doesn't happen. It's pressing the other fire button that switches you around. So you can be facing to the right and move left and thing, but you'll still be hammering to the right, kind of like Nemesis and all those kind of shooters. You just can press another button to fire to the left, and then you'll be always facing to the left. This doesn't do that because with a continuously scrolling to the right game, this is a bit problematical. As if you head towards the right of the screen, say to collect a power up, and then you need to head back to the left of the screen. That puts your back to the incoming enemies, which are coming from the right, and has you shooting to the left, which is not good because then you need to quickly face right again. But then you want to get back to the other side of the screen because you're facing problem here. That's the problem. I'm not sure if this control could have been done differently. Maybe just have you facing right all the time and get rid of the dual way fire, maybe. Or maybe holding the fire button and tapping to the left or right to change direction could have worked better. So you constantly tap to shoot and then hold it and then press left and it would flick you the other way. That would have been maybe a better option. As it is, it's a pain in the ass. But it's livable with, but it's not great. Because most of the game, you want to be shooting to the right, so you kind of end up staying on the left of the screen and just moving to the right slightly and flicking back when you need to. So that's not the way this game needs to be played. You need to be zipping about all over. Anyway, power up seems to be simply picked up in game now, and they're fitted immediately, so you just fly straight over them. So when you shoot certain enemies, POW. A sprite will appear. If you collect that, so if you collect the power, then you get a speed up. You've got, I think, three. You can go faster into three stages. If you shoot it, though, if you shoot the power, it cycles through. From power, it goes to lasers. Shoot it again, it turns back to power. Shoot it finally, it goes to a three-way shot. Finally, it goes back to power, and I think that just loops around. And I think that's the power-ups in the C64 version. So a hint here is to get the three-way shot, as you can then position yourself just to the right of the middle of the screen and dead center on the vertical. Just keep blasting. Nothing's going to get near you at that point. So that's kind of handy. That's quite nice. There's one other power-up, and this enables both players to merge together for a full-on 6-way blastathon. If you're only playing one player, the other player kind of comes on from off-screen, and you kind of form this super... Because what you play is you're kind of a flying mech. I think you're a mecha, aren't you? You're in a mecha suit.
Yeah.
So you're not in a spaceship this time. It's a person, but you're in a mech suit. So when the other one comes on, they kind of merge together into this super mecha, and then it blasts in all six directions. So either way, and then in the diagonals as well. And you can go fly around, and then if you get hit, then you split a pack apart and you become who you were. But that's kind of cool because you can then rain down hell on everything that's coming from either direction. So that's quite nice, and that's good to see that that's in the C64 version and things like that. So there are things missing though. The balls to protect you are gone. So they're just not there. Whether they couldn't do them, they couldn't fit them in, whatever it is, they're not there. So they ain't there. The vertical scrolling sections are also gone. The continuous scrolling is also gone, replaced with quite an onerous multi-load system. So each level loads in separately, which is a pain in the ass. And I found most infuriating, the bosses are gone. So they're just replaced by a ball that continuously spawns enemies. So the big bosses that you get in the arcade, they're just gone. They're just not there. So the end of the level is a real damp squid letdown. It just stops. You shoot a ball, and then the next one just loads in. So that bit really feels like where these corners have been cut the most in this conversion. During the main game, as you're scrolling along and those spinny sort of U-shaped enemies are come flying in, like sort of not tuning foot, but kind of those kind of things. Those animations are really quite nice. The spinning's quite nice. Everything looks the part. This looks like I said, looks like sidearms through a C64 lens. It moves quite nice. The scrolling's pretty smooth. The power-ups are all there. But it's in those extra little bits, those bits that make it sidearms, the bosses, the continuous scrolling, that those are missing. And I guess corners had to be cut somewhere, but that's a shame. I didn't hate this. There's some issues with the controls, as I've said. I would have liked to see the bosses in, but I think there's enough sidearms DNA here. It enabled me to enjoy my time with this conversion. It's not brilliant. The tune is weak. The graphics range from rough to pretty good in places, but the two-player spirit is there. And even though I think the control method could have been better, I did enjoy playing this. I think the multi-load's a bit much, but I can understand why they did it. The levels are very varied. They're not the same from level to level. So it's a completely different sprite bank and background bank. So I imagine there's just not enough memory in the C64 to hold that variety of visuals. So I kind of understand why they went for that. And they sort of went, you know what, if we're going to get all 8 levels in, and they have got all 8 levels in, the only way we're really going to do this is a multi-load. So I can understand it, So I just don't think they would have fit it all in the C64's memory. Certainly better than some of the other arcade conversions we've had to endure. Not as good as some, but in the mid to good range for me. I quite enjoyed my time with this. It's not a terrible version, and I think the cutbacks and the changes are what they had to do to get it into the C64 and what they had at their disposal. I would have liked to just seen maybe a different control method, but apart from that, this was all right. I was shooting all right away on this and getting quite far into it for quite a while. What about you?
I think you're being very kind, overly kind.
I think I am, but maybe it's what it is.
You were very critical of Outrun for not being Outrun because it didn't have key components in it, and this for me felt exactly the same.
But the key component of Outrun is the choice. You don't have to have choices in this.
Yeah, but the same thing here. You can't have if you take the bosses out of this game, you haven't got sidearms.
The bosses are, and that's what I said. The bosses are the biggest letdown.
This is not the biggest. They're one of the letdowns.
Yeah.
The control system substitution makes the game borderline unplayable, really, because if you're used to, it would have been a much better choice to just keep it shooting as one direction, really, and just have it like a standard
think so as well. I do think so, yeah.
And so I guess they tried to do things, and I suppose that's okay. They tried. We can't kick people for trying things. They've tried to cram a lot in. It's another arcade that's actually deceptively huge in scope and scale, and it doesn't look it when you play it. But I've got a lot of time for sidearms as an arcade because it's such a great blaster. When the two players merge into one, you feel like you've got a really good power up scheme. Some of the weapons that you upgrade to in the arcade really seem really powerful, and you blast things, and it's got a nice. The upgrades were one of the things that I really like about sidearms is that you really feel like you've upgraded.
Yeah.
And that's really nice, and that's a good sign. Unfortunately, with some of those things missing, it's like cutting its leg off a little bit. The sound is a disgrace in this, really, and it's such an afterthought. But again, it could be a victim of trying to cram so much in. I don't know. I just thought this was all of the things I like about the arcade had kind of just been squashed a bit here, including the actual sprites and the graphics. And I get that it's a C64, 1 megahertz processor. You've only got a little bit of memory, and so I think that as you said, maybe they've tried to cram as much as they can in, and they did what they could. Okay, fine. But I just don't think it sort of works. And I think the main problem I had with it is that awful control system, because I found myself just facing the wrong way more often than not.
Yeah.
Which is really frustrating as a player. To die in a game because you were facing the wrong way because you don't have a choice about it is so fundamentally wrong in a shooter that it's such a bad decision to make. I mean, there's a million ways they could have done that. Spacebar if you were desperate to have something in there, or like you say, maybe there's a way to figure it out. Maybe they tried all of those and just thought, sod it, we're just going to do this. I don't know. The upgrades in it, they do sort of work. There's just not enough of them. So you never feel like you've upgraded enough. But then you've got no enemies really that you need the big upgrades for, which defeats the purpose of the game. To get through this game, this endlessly scrolling thing, to get yourself and your ship ramped up to take on these really big bosses. If you take away the bosses and then you take away their weapons, it's just flat. And that's exactly what you're left with. A very flat, lifeless, flaccid version of sidearms. And that's a shame. That for me, it was a shame. And like you say, with Outrun, okay, there was some key choices that they took away from that. You couldn't, and part of that is the choice of the track. And for me, this was the same. They made wrong decisions about the game design and development. And then in the end, they ended up with a game that isn't really sidearms because there's nothing really sidearmsy about it other than it's kind of got the name and it sort of hints at the sort of same idea. But this is no more a version of sidearms than Outrun was a version of Outrun. There's just too much missing for me and not enough of the key bits that made sidearms great. It's a shame. I mean, it got a reasonable score for this, I think, in Zapped. They gave it 61%, which is about what you'd expect something like this to get.
Yeah.
Just the tragedy is that I think it's Renegade comes later on the C64, does this kind of thing so much better. So we'll obviously look forward to that when it comes along because it's a Thalamus game. But this, it's a great tragedy that a great arcade game that it could have been falls into the category of a not very good side-scrolling shooter on the C64. And that's I'm
just comparing it against things like that. What was that awful one like Mag Max and Galvan and things like that, which I think this is, and Breakthrough, which I think this is better than. But as I said, I think it's in the middle to just above middle tier. For me, because I think what happened was I found myself optimizing my play to get around the problems, and I know that that's not and that's damning with faint praise. So I stayed near the left, let the power ups come to me, and just kept shooting from that direction. And I shouldn't have to do that, and I agree, I shouldn't. But
it's not fun though.
To be fair, I did have some fun with this. It wasn't terrible, and I did.
But if you've just adapted to the limitations you've got, and then the limitations, then that's it. After that, what? You're just nothing. I mean, that's just a shame. Just a shame. I'd rather play Delta.
Stay near the left anyway and shoot them up. So if I can, like Nemesis and things like that.
I'd rather play Drop Zone. Drop Zone's a better sort of shooter of this type.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I'm not going to argue with that.
Pity. It's just sidearms on the C64 for me will always be the game. The game that never was. it's such great material there, and the Nemesis managed to convey a decent shooter. Wouldn't have been too hard to think of that. I just think what a waste, what a mistake. It's so sad.
I think, according to the book as well, I didn't look at them, but this is the pick of the 8-bit conversions as well. The Amstrad and the Spectrum version is supposed to be even worse.
Seems to be the way of it. I mean, at least the C64 has smooth scrolling.
Yeah, that's
such as it is, and it has those. It does have the parts that are there that work. It's just not sidearms as you would come to expect it. And the same disappointment hit me that hit me with Outrun and so many other arcade conversions. You start to realise that the C64 is cracking at the edges now, and some of these games are just not really going to be able to be done. It's
what you can expect. It's as best as you could have hoped for, I think.
Well,
when you're honest with yourself, maybe.
And then you'll play Renegade, and you'll play some of the shooters that come out only a year and a half later, and the difference is mind blowing.
True,
so, and that's a multi-loader on disc, with slightly better graphics, same sort of delineation. So.
But is that a case of?
I think it's Renegade.
Is it a case of that they're not hampered by what they've got to replicate? So they've got free. I don't know. It's hard to say, isn't it?
I'm not sure it's called Renegade. You'd have to check it. I can't remember. It's the Thalamus game that's similar. I can't remember what it's called now.
It's not Hawkeye, is it?
Retrograde, actually.
Retrograde. Okay, yeah.
Like that, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's got Martin Walker music, I think, on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is Retrograde, yeah. So, and I seem to remember that being similar. Now I've said that, it probably is nothing like it.
Was there a C64 version of Forgotten Worlds?
I wouldn't know. If there is, we'll come across it, won't we?
Yeah. I know there was an Amiga version, because I seem to remember us playing it.
There was an Amiga version, I think.
I'm sure we played Forgotten Worlds together. I remember us playing it. I
remember Retrograde being really good.
Yeah, I do as well.
Looking at Retrograde, it's not sidearms, but there's a definite hint of it. Looking at some of the screens on Abandonware now.
Okay.
There's definitely. So anyway, it's a different game. We'll come to that.
It is a different game anyway. Sidearms Hyperdyne. It's I think 61% is about right. That's where I would put it.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's just, for me, I'm not going to grade it badly because it's just, I think I just didn't like it. It's sad.
No,
I
that's
didn't
fair
like the
enough.
conversion.
I think that's absolutely fair enough. And I think I just, like I said, I probably
you get out of what you get out of
I
it.
think I overcompensated for what it was. Maybe
I don't know that. If you enjoy what you enjoy. I just played a lot of the arcade. It's probably too much of the arcade. This has always been a go-to arcade for me, always.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I'm anywhere where there's a sidearms position, I'll go on it and I'll be on it for ages.
Yeah, because it's a great game.
Because you do. And so when I replayed
it's
this,
satisfying. Just a satisfying arcade blaster.
I was trying to think if I had sidearms on the C64. I don't think I ever did. So this was kind of a shocking revelation.
Shocking. All right, there we go. To be fair, though, it's better than Zip. And it was better than Demon Stalkers.
Oh, not kidding. Zip was crap all over.
There we go. Hey. Right, there we go. That's our first half. We've had ups and downs, well, mostly downs. We've had some slow vectors and whatever. We've gauntleted, we've zipped something up, and then we've been disappointed with an arcade conversion. We're going to go away now, take a quick break, and we're going to come back and we're going to look at what was going on in the singles chart for March 1988. So stick around. We'll see you in a bit.
Fresh hummus and delicious dips for our show sponsor, DavidHearnWriter.com, where you will find a gargantuan collection of brilliant audiobooks, bargain books, ebooks, and more. David once threw a dinner fork through a wall because his jacket potato was too hot. He doesn't mess around. He's also a brilliant writer. Check out this sound snip from his fantastic audiobook, Escape from the Commodore 64, which is available now.
Run, Reese called. Just grab the lanterns. Don't worry about him. Lanterns tumbled from her arms. Lanterns she desperately needed if she was going to make it through this level. 10 became 7, and as she ducked and darted around the dimly lit passages, she grabbed 1, 2, 3 more. As she reached for the last one, a shadow fell over her. It was the goblin, tall and green and sporting a pair of boxing gloves. It was bigger than the ninja, and as its wonky smile turned into a teeth-baring grimace, its aim was exactly the same as the ninja's.
If that hasn't got your purchasing finger poised over the Buy Now button, I don't know what will. For more, please visit DavidHearnWriter.com. That's David, Hearne, writer.com. Off you go.
Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
And we're back. Let's get into some singles. March 1988. Bumper crop, maybe. Bumper crop, Graham.
Yeah, it's one word for it. One word for it. I won't say
First 2
bumper.
weeks. Well, we should be so lucky. I should be so
yeah.
lucky. Someone should be so lucky. First 2 weeks, Kylie Minogue is still there, bumping and grinding away,
Should
being
be
lucky,
so lucky.
being all cute and
Yeah, the only
innocent
people who
and
got
everything.
bloody lucky was Stock Aitken and Waterman because they were quids in. We've said it before, and we're not going to say it again. No,
Are we not?
No, because we've said it before. We know exactly how he. We said he started ejaculating cash from the second he saw Kylie Minogue, and that won't have changed until she stops producing hit records. He won't stop pumping the coin-based proteins, will he?
Pumping pounds, spunking spondoolies.
Exactly, yeah. She was just a cash machine for him, and admittedly,
For them,
she's a talented for them. Yeah, she's a talented lady, without a doubt. She's made some amazing stuff in her time. I'm not taking anything away from Kylie Minogue because she's an outright little pop star, and nothing wrong with that. But no, it's just a pity that she was making money for the Stock Aitken and Waterman. I suppose it's inevitable, really. I liked their early sort of the ramp up for them was good. And then when they launched off the ramp, it wasn't so good. It was, not
It
good.
wasn't Evil Knievel. It was just evil.
It was, it's the same thing over and over again. They hit formula, didn't they? And
Yeah, very much.
there you go.
For the last 2 weeks of the month, we had this could be about sidearms, wasn't it? Don't Turn Around by
Don't turn
Aswad.
around. Yeah, good. It's
You
actually
gotta
a good little
see
song,
a
yeah.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, good. It's a good. Honestly, it's so non-offensive, and reggae's not really classed as. I wouldn't class it as my cup of tea at all. That's not because it's bad. In fact, it's very good. It's just I'll have it on. If it's on, I'll never turn it off though. If I'm at a party or something, or I've been around in like a summer.
Off.
Yeah, just if it's on,
Do.
I find it's really listenable. It's really good. It's really good music for that kind of thing.
It's got a good middle eight. This song, I like the middle eight into the. Don't do it around. Do. It's good.
And they were a really well-established reggae act as well, Aswad. I think
they
the
were.
people
They
in it
were.
are amazing musicians and stuff. So
Yeah.
yep,
I did note that because I was thinking about it, and the UK did seem to have a penchant for pop reggae tunes for some reason.
UB40 made a career out of it.
More typical like R&B and things like that, which we didn't really seem to be. But reggae was quite popular over here in the 80s.
Well,
so.
yeah, of course. We had Mr. Marley, didn't we? He was periodically in and out of the charts all the way through.
Yeah, so it's just strange we would go with that. I suppose it's because there was a big reggae component in clubs and stuff around.
Yeah,
around
absolutely.
The UK, wasn't
Yeah.
there? So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't part. I was too young at this point to be in clubs, of course.
No,
but
same.
my understanding,
Same.
having watched documentaries since then, is that the UK was full of reggae clubs. They were everywhere. You could just step over them according to documentaries I've seen. But they may be over-representing it, but I'm not sure.
Just a tad. But yeah, apparently very, very underground movement, wasn't it? That sort of came from the underground and became...
things like the specials and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. But it never became...
Which I suppose that's more ska, but ska reggae a bit. Reggae is.
It never became mainstream in the sense that, but at the same time, it always remained as it was. I don't know how to describe it, but
Eddie Grant.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think we're probably offending everyone that's into reggae music really badly by not knowing anything about it. I imagine there's a whole raft of amazing reggae stuff out there, but my experience of it in the UK is very much based on what I heard in the chart. I'm sad to say.
It is.
I know. And in Grimsby, where I was brought up, there were no reggae cafes or bars, or as far as I'm aware, and certainly I was not massively exposed to reggae music in any way, shape or form, apart from what was on the TV. So good old BBC and Top of the Pops really helped me understand some wider cultural music.
Good hat wearing in this video as well.
Very good hat wearing.
Very good. Right, that's your number ones. 6th of March, what do we have going on? Number 30, straight to number 30 is Where Do Broken Hearts Go by Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston. Indeed. Probably not a song about myocardial infarction.
Probably not. No, probably not. Classic ballad, though. I did know it would be better if it didn't sound quite so much like Whitney Houston.
I know, she's cursed.
That sort of does let it down a bit. It does have a good key change, though, in this.
Yes. She's
really
got the
like.
power. She can sing all the key changes she wants. Very powerful singer, Whitney Houston.
She can key change mid key change. She's that good.
I mean, she sadly passed away, but when they did the autopsy, when they actually opened her up, she had a lung that stretched all the way from her chin to her toe.
I wonder where that was going.
Her entire body was two lengthy lungs, which is why she could hit all those notes.
That is
In fact,
true.
Lengthy Lungs was originally a stage name, but they changed it to Whitney Houston because it suits her better, and it does. It's true.
It does. But initially, according to Wikipedia, Houston did not want to record the song, feeling that there was no special message to convey.
Yeah,
Which is weird. In a 2000 interview in 2000, Houston reminisced that she hated this song. However,
Wowza.
Arista Records CEO Clive Davis believed the song would go to number one if she recorded it, so she agreed. It indeed became a number one, Houston's 7th consecutive number one single in the US. A record for consecutive number one singles that still stands to this day.
Good old Whitney Houston. At some point, somebody must have said, Whitney Houston, there is a problem. Someone must have cracked that bad joke. I didn't even do it properly. Somebody else probably did it better.
But if you do not insert the tumbleweed and the bell sound at that point, I'm going to be deeply disappointed.
Whitney Houston. Yes, I might.
Whitney Houston, we have a problem. You sound too much like yourself. The critics have spoken.
Yes, the critics did speak, didn't they? Yeah. Damning her with that.
In at number 43, a song I've never heard of, Dreaming by Glenn Goldsmith.
No.
The video
Daydreaming.
it's British. I don't know. It's not very good R&B. This too much staring out of a radio window while some woman got really angry with him. It's sub Terence Trent D'Arby Dullsville, as far as I could make out.
Terence Trent D'Arby Dullsville sounds like some To the Manor Born book or something. Darby Dullsville. It's a dance, maybe. I don't know.
I say, Mr. Darby Dullsville is attending the soiree this evening. I'll be sure to wear my best frock. Oh, Mr. Darby, you are spoiling
Terence Trent D'Arby and his brother Mark Darcy, who's featured in the Bridget Jones movies, of course, as he later became.
He is, yeah. Colin Firth.
Yeah, Colin Firth. Yeah, old Fizzy Firth.
That's his brother. That's his other brother, Colin and Fizzy. And the final triplet. I don't know what it would be. Dizzy Frith.
Yeah.
Colin, Fizzy, and Dizzy.
I bet he's a drummer or he's a musician with a name like Dizzy Frith.
Dizzy Frith.
Yeah, he's a clarinet player. Plays jazz in a band called the Toodles. A band called the Toodles. Toodles and the Pip. He's the Pip.
Who, Colin?
Yeah.
When he turns up.
Good old Toodles and the Pip. Yeah.
When he's not in fight with Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant, yeah.
In at number 51 was Just a Mirage, featuring Adele Bertie, which is by Jellybean, featuring Adele Bertie.
Adele Bertie, yeah.
Did you listen to this?
I did, yeah, on the ongoing quest for the replacement, as I've come to call it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, trying to find desperately trying to find desperately seeking another Madonna. It's another film he was trying to make.
It's got obviously like you've made a note. It's got the house style piano, staccato, ding 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 piano. Yeah, he invented that sound.
Did he?
Invented the house piano, yes, and the shed trombone as well. And the garage violin. In fact, he just generally went around different kinds of buildings and with musical instruments and made house instruments.
The outhouse oboe.
Yes. And of course, his name is Jellybean, and he can spit in 50 different flavors. That's another crap joke. All of them. Jellybean can spit in 50 flavors. What am I thinking of writing that?
I don't know. Know.
Jellybean Benitez, isn't it? Yes.
It is,
famous producer. Yeah. Good egg.
Number 53, The Devil Inside by In Excess.
Yeah.
I thought this was quite further enhancing their ability to write sexy rock music. Yeah. Good riff in this and good vocals, very good vocals from Hutchins.
You said that for every single In Excess track. Good riff that. Good riff in that. In all fairness, it probably is.
They all are. They were at the peak of their sexy rock powers at this point.
Yeah. I've never got into it. I know the ones I know, but not that one. I'll listen to it. Again, sounds like In Excess, which I suppose is what you say about Whitney Houston. Well, she sounds like Whitney Houston. She doesn't sound anything like In Excess.
No, it doesn't. Number 68 is Faith by the Wee Papa Girl Rappers.
Yeah,
not normally my cup of tea, but I quite like this. It's a catchy rap tune.
Yeah, it was all right. The Wee Papa Girl Rappers were okay. We Rule and all that. It was good.
It reminded me, and I put this, I may be way off base here, but this reminded me of a sort of style of De La Soul, sort of that kind of catchy rap style.
We'll come across another one later, which is similarly as well. There's a style developing. We're starting to see it, and the more as we go through and we head more into the sort of very late 80s into the 90s, you're going to see more and more and more of it. But this is the beginning of it. You'll start to see it. And De La Soul and Wee Papa Girl rappers, and there's a few of them that you'll start to see as we go through.
Okay.
I don't know what the style of that is. We need somebody that listens to it regularly, like podcast friend Gary. He's always been into the Wee Papa Girl rappers. In fact, he was one of the Wee Papas.
He was just wee.
Yeah. He's the Wee Paper Girl rappers, he was.
The Wee Paper Girl.
Anyway, but he would probably know all about that stuff, and he'd be able to tell you the exact genre, because that's the kind of thing he can do. It's one of his special powers.
He was a Wee Paper rapper. He just used to wrap up very small parcels.
It's his special power. You know, he can wrap very small things very neatly folded corners. He does really good corners.
He gets the paper so tight you can't rip it.
Well, this is from years of making cheese sandwiches. That guy can fold bread like no one else.
He can.
He is a bread folder.
And he can also crack knuckles at the speed of sound.
But yes, he would be able to tell us the genre that we're kind of grasping at straws to identify as it develops. But
indeed,
no, he'll no doubt at some point in the next 10 to 15 years he'll get to this podcast.
He'll get here,
and he'll listen to that. And by that time, we won't even know what he's talking about.
Absolutely. Number 78. I didn't listen to this. I wish I had them. Burning Like a Flame by Dokken.
Oh my lord! He plays pull with his guitar, and that actual pull. And then he's one point where he's running down with the neck of the guitar, obviously.
Oh my god!
And then it uses the what's the bit at the top where you tune it, the little tuning end. I can't remember, for some reason the name escapes me. No, the other end, not the bit you play, the bit the little tuning keys on. What's it called? That bit? I don't know that bit. Yeah, I guess it is that. Anyway, he's using that.
It's the body, the neck, and the head, isn't it?
Yeah. So either way, what it isn't is a pull cue.
No, it's not.
Crazy man that he is. And there's a lot of, again, big hair. There's a part where he's running down a corridor with a burning flame. It's all a bit, I don't know.
It's Dokken. Yeah.
Well, it's just, the thing is that it's called Burning Like a Flame, so he had to be running down a corridor with a flame burning. It's like, you don't have to do that.
No.
You can just, take it back a step, Dokken. Take it back a step. Be a little bit more allegorical.
Yeah, but they don't think in anything other than obvious. They can't.
No.
That's what it is. 13th of March, in at number 17 was Drop the Boy by Bros. Is that an order? Seems a bit harsh.
Never a fan of Bros. This is the sequel, follow-up to When Will I Be Famous?
Which we know the answer to. 15 years.
Yeah, exactly. Drop the Boy.
Number 22, Could Have Been by Tiffany. I listened to this. It sounds like a Disney song.
Yeah, it would do. It's Tiffany. Was she ex-Disney? Was she something to do with Disney?
I don't think she was anything to do with Disney. No, this just sounds like a sounds like a Disney song.
She's probably manufactured by Disney. She probably invented by Disney. I don't know.
Maybe.
Third single from the album, the debut album. But, not an album I've ever listened to ever. So.
Number 29, Bass, How Low Can You Go by Simon Harris.
How low can you go, Bass? How low can you go? It's a really good track like this. Simon Harris is very, very cool.
Yeah.
So definitely go and listen to that.
Number 30, Cross My Broken Heart by Sunita.
Oh, another damaged major organ. Organ failures in this lineup this time. Did you watch the video for this?
I did not. I think I have seen it in the past. But
so. The opening sequence has got that many crash zooms into Sunita's face. It's alarming. That and she's so wiggly. She's so wiggly and there's so much spinning in that. That's all before. That's in the first few seconds of the video.
Ugh.
And then she starts to sing. Now, let me tell you something about Sunita.
Okay.
I think she's a very pretty lady, without doubt. Singing, not so much. Now, she becomes a vocal coach, I think, at some point. So I don't quite know what's gone on, but the audio that I listened to, the singing, it was terrible. It sounded horrible. It's just so bad. And also the chorus in it sounds like Robbie Williams released a song. I don't know what the song is. The one that goes, hey, ho, where we go. What's that song called? Robbie Williams. Whatever that one is.
No.
Anyway, the chorus in the Sunita song sounds, or the middle chorus sounds exactly like it. So I wonder if there isn't some borrowing there.
Quite possibly. Who knows?
So go and listen to that and see if you can identify my version of a Rob Williams song, because I have no idea what that's even called.
There's not a lot to go on, and you're asking the wrong person.
Oh, I can't think what it's called. Hey, ho, where we go. I don't know.
No idea. Number 32, Days of No Trust by Magnum.
Hey, yeah, he looks pained in that picture, doesn't he? Goodness.
I know he dumped yeah. So I put a picture there. It's a screen graph and it tells you all you need to know. There's so much hair and wind in this video. So much. It's crazy. And also as well, I did note while I was watching the video, he looks like he's trying to convey the lyrics in sign language. So it's good to see deaf rock fans being catered for.
Yes, it's always good to play the niche. Play the niche card if you're going to play a niche
It's
card.
so bad. He also does, I know you said it's not Gary, it does look like Gary if he had long hair and a penchant for leather.
Looks nothing like Gary.
You watch the video though, and it's
Literally nothing like him. At least not in that picture.
no, in that picture is Gary like at a certain point in his pleasure dome.
I don't know. From popular rock band, popular with some people, to very popular ice cream. Seems like a niche career move for them.
Well, you know, when you see a gap in the market, you got to go for it. And they made that ice cream from birth.
I did. They manufacture. Well, he lays them. He actually lays magnums.
Absolutely.
He's never been able to stop doing it since he ate one. He just thunks them out. But they don't come out always with a crispy shell. Yeah, they don't come always with a crispy shell. Sometimes they're soft like a baby crab.
Be careful when you eat the almond ones.
Don't ever eat them.
But that's the face he pulls when he's crapping out an almond one.
It comes out sideways with the stick attached. You don't want to know how you don't want to know how he pumps the sticks in normally. It's a two-stage manufacturing process. That
stick go in, magnum come out.
He has to swallow the stick first. Oh, it hurts so much. It's just keep going. We've got another batch due.
Absolutely. Unilever won't let us stop.
Now thunk them out. Come on. Okay. Hey.
Number 36. Temptation by Wet Wet Wet.
Doom on them.
You're not tempted?
No. I don't remember this one, thankfully.
I don't want either. No, I only remember one song called Temptation, and that's by Temptation. Not them, but it's ABC.
That's Heaven 17.
Heaven 17 is one of them, yeah.
I don't think it's that, is it? It's not a version of that, is it, by Wet Wet Wet?
I hope not. I didn't listen. I wasn't going to. I didn't want to sully my YouTube playlist.
Because old knee neck will come after you and start trying to smash you in with his knee neck.
When he stopped like imbibing a tube of Pringles in one go. or what's it?
if you want to draw a perfect representation of a Marty's pillow. I mean, it's going to sound a bit weird, this, but get somebody to get a Sharpie pen, a good quality Sharpie pen, and just draw a face on your knee. Because then, as you move your knee and move your leg, the lower part of your leg, you'll actually form a Marty Pello's type face because he's a knee neck.
Knee neck.
That's what it looks like. Yeah, you can do a pillow on the knee, which is like
it's like a tickle on the tongue.
Similar.
Pillow on the knee.
Pillow on the what? Look down this pillow town, and there's the river. I don't want to think about it. No one tickles this river.
No, Temptation.
No.
Number 82, Sweet Lies by Robert Palmer.
Nah,
Sleazy pop and video, but it's sub Brian Ferry.
It is really, isn't it? Yeah. But people he lived in a real weird place in the British sort of chart. Robert Palmer, he kind of floated in and out. It was always half popular, but some people really liked it. I didn't know a lot of people that did.
No. Number 98, Stop Loving You by Toto. Tutu.
Tutu. Such a good track by Tutu, this.
Yeah, it's a good tune. It's all right. It's not my favourite. I know it's yours.
It's my absolute favourite Toto song ever. I think it's ace. But it's one of those, some people have a song they really like. There's a really good C64 version of this as well. It was used in loads of demos around this time as well, which I'll probably stick a link to in the SID, but it's really, really good. And that was, I think, where I first heard it, strangely enough. I heard it on I think it's a Science 451 demo. And I'm thinking, that's a really catchy tune. And then we ripped it from that and we put it in one of our S Express music rips. So it's in there somewhere as well. We've even used it in, I think it's in Lightning. I think the demo Lightning that S Express did with the big raster splits and the big scrolly and that. And Lightning, I think Stop Living You is in that. It's really good. And of course, it features the amazing drumming of Jeff Porcaro. So go and check
I did watch that video you linked to, and it just looked like he was doing some drumming.
It's such, I mean, it's just his descriptions. He goes from so it's this sort of starts simple. It's like on a hiatus. So I did a double triple diddle with a doodad and then I just introduced this little bit of complexity. And you're like, what are you doing? And how are you doing that and talking about it?
And then I added the bebop bass drum.
He talks about how he merged these two things together. Yeah, and you're like, what? It's just incredible. Yeah. Anyway, we'll put that video in the show notes because it's worth watching. And although your brain will snap halfway through when you go, it's just because it's like, it's so good. It's like different to watching Buddy Rich, because Buddy Rich videos generally, if you're watching them, they tend to you look at it going, how is somebody drumming that fast and that accurately? And then you watch a Rush drummer and Neil Peart, and he's a similar.
Yeah.
Porcaro is very different to that.
Do you know who I found out was a really good drummer the other day? And I didn't see it. I watched the video. Karen Carpenter.
Yes, she was, yeah,
I
famously.
saw some video and I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, she's really good.
Very good.
Really good. And ironically, in the end, she became thinner than the drumstick she held.
Oh, Jesus. Moving
Very
on
sad.
from that one.
Very sad.
Very sad.
She ended up looking like a drumstick.
I would go, ba-dum-dum, tsh, but I think it might be in bad taste. 20th of March. Number 4, Can I Play With Madness by Iron Maiden.
Clumsy fools. Fool of a tuck. Throw yourself in next time. Lumpy, clumsy fools. I don't know why. This is such a lumpy, clumsy song for me. I mean, it's great. It's not my favourite Maiden song because that hands down lives with Run to the Hills. But
I like Phantom of the Opera, but there you go.
But this one, it's good. It's a good Maiden track. But like you say, it's classic Maiden. Which, by the way, made me laugh when you wrote that. Because it's just like that's got to be the name of their bloody one of their endless bloody compilation albums. Classic Maiden.
You notice the smooth rhythm change at 2:30 though. It just
you can't not notice it, can you? Because
it's like as smooth as a.
It's like someone threw a cymbal at bloody what's his name, Nico, whatever his name is,
Nico McBrain.
Yeah, threw it straight into his face. It was like, oh yeah, just instantly changed it.
It's like
they put the bass. What's his name? The bassist in Maiden,
Steve Harris, isn't it?
Steve Harris. He's always really high in their mixes.
It's because he mixes them.
Well, that's why, yeah. He's like, I think they just put the bass needs to be a little bit louder, I think you found, Bruce. Okay.
Can't hear the lyrics.
Stop screaming, God. Turn it down. God, you big baby.
Dum, 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 dum. You can't hear anything but bass.
They're just hairy and lumpy fists of ham meat, the meat people.
The video's crap as well.
Just lumps of denim-dressed ham playing with big ham fists. But it kind of works, you know. I'm not criticising them. I like Maiden a lot, but that's what they are. Big blocks of meat ham.
Oh, true. Yeah. I suppose when they're contemporaries of things like Saxon. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. They're all after the same oeuvre, aren't they? Yeah, I love the oeuvre.
Number 18, Stay on These Roads by Aha.
Stay on the roads, lads.
I know. This was the first single from their third album, which was, I think, called the same thing, Stay on These Roads. It also featured, that album featured The Living Daylight as well. So this might not have been the first album. Have we already covered that one? I don't think we had. It's a bit whimsical for my taste. It's all right. It's a bit airy. Yeah. It's okay.
Thing.
It's not a classic. Video is odd as well. They wear black leather and bright blue jeans, which is never a good look.
Black leather and bright blue jeans sounds like an album. By Iron Maiden, actually.
No, it'd be by What's-Her-Face, who did Black Velvet.
Alana Miles.
Miles. Black leather and bright blue jeans.
Black leather, if you please. Yeah. Yeah, she did the one song she's famous for.
Indeed.
I should listen to more Aha, but I really can't be bothered.
No one's forcing you to.
I know. That's what it would take.
And at number 37, I Ain't Complaining by Status Quo.
Nobody was, but Radio 1 and Radio 2, listeners were, didn't they? Got them took off in the end.
They did. Good.
They said they had no musical merit and refused to play their records.
That's quite damning.
It's overly harsh and stupid because Status Quo are no different to any other rock and roll band out there. Yes, they're derivative and they sound the same, but so what?
I thought they got moved to Radio 2. They got moved off Radio 1, didn't they? I thought they got moved to 2.
No, then I think two turned on them as well, I think, in the end.
Oh, well, okay. Number 48, Do This My Way by Kid and Play.
That's the other one, Kid and Play.
Yeah, they was also, when I was trying to describe a haircut, didn't they have the big, was it them that had the big haircut, the big flat top?
Big straight up and flat top, yes.
Yeah, this was the band I was trying to remember a week or so back when we were talking about haircuts. Number 53, Push It, Tramp. That's, not Push It, not Push It Tramp, but Push It / Tramp. That sounds inspired by Salt and Pepper.
Push It, real good. Yeah, very important track that in terms of the artists, of course. Very good.
Interesting as well to see Salt and Pepper and We Papa Girl Rappers in the same month.
Yes, exactly. And of course, the DJ who did all the sort of classic scratching and stuff in the background was DJ Spinderella, I believe, for Salt and Pepper. Missed a trick, didn't they? Vinegar. Should have been vinegar, shouldn't it? Salt, pepper, and vinegar. No.
Mayo.
That would have been the Cleethorpes Seaside tribute act, wouldn't it?
What?
Salt, pepper, and vinegar. Yeah, salt and vinegar chips. Are you a salt and pepper tribute act? Well, part of us is. I do salt.
And cheese vinegar. Ooh. She's got a mouth like she's had too much vinegar. Ooh.
Oh, it's a bit bitter.
It's a bit tart.
Bit tart. That she's a tart. She is.
Absolutely. Put some lemon on it. Number 61, She's Like the Wind, featuring Wendy Fraser, which is by Patrick Swayze, featuring Wendy Fraser.
It's quite a good track, actually.
It's exactly what you think it will be. What you think this track is going to be is exactly what you think. It's Middle America, MOR, through and through. Exactly what you expect.
Just a very talented guy, Patrick Swayze. I watched a really interesting documentary about him, and it was such a nice, kind guy. So it's totally inoffensive.
He wasn't in that documentary about time travel.
No.
Yeah, he wasn't very nice in that.
No. It was quite interesting to see sort of the other side of Patrick Swayze, because I thought he was this guy that worked in bars, threw people out, started fights. Yeah, principally the entire life of a roadhouse guy.
Walked around lifting women up at random.
Just a woman lifter.
It's a woman lifter. Swayze, you're mad. You're a woman lifter. Stop it.
Get out of here, woman lifter. Go on, get out.
Put her down.
Come on. For crying out, get out. Bloody woman lifting. Coming in here doing your woman lifting thing. Get out.
Absolutely. Go sing your song. Stop lifting up Wendy Fraser. Sing with her. Anyway, number 90, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Michael Bolton.
Sing your own damn songs, Bolton.
Oh, Bolton.
Not his song, is it?
He just sticks stuff on himself. He's got loads of bolt-ons.
Michael Bolton. Meet Michael Boltoff. He's your Russian counterpart.
Don't shake hands. It'd be like the end of Time Cop.
You've crossed the bolts. Now they're threaded. They're never going to be any use to anybody.
Mr. Miyagi runs through in the background. Bolt on, bolt off.
Boltar. He's going to come in as well somewhere from Battlestar. Yes, not you.
Boltar.
Boltar, meet Bolton. And bolt off. The bolts.
When they met, it was nutty.
It was very nutty. I thought this was the singing cousin of Ramsay Bolton from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
And I'd like to see them all in a band, all the Bolts. Now we've mentioned them all the Boltons, Boltoffs, and of course the Boltars. Boltars, the Boltees, the Bolteasers.
The Boltoons.
Because I just thought, in Game of Thrones, he famously writes the Ramsay letter, doesn't he? The come and see bastard letter,
He does.
And I thought that you could there's a version of that exists, which is basically almost like an advert for the band, Michael Bolton's band, where he sort of invited people to come to his gig, but he couldn't quite get the Bolton out of his invite. So I've written a sort of a version of it. It's a work in progress, but it's to the traitor and bastards that like MOR music. You will have thousands of middle-aged men and women pass the pub security. You have betrayed your own kind, and you've betrayed rock music and R&B. The Golden Lion pub is mine, bastard. Come and see. Your brother Ricky and his band, The Plums, are in my dungeon. His kick drum skin is on my face. Come and see. I want my guitar back. Send it to me, bastard. And I will not trouble you or your stupid band. Keep it from me, and I will jump on the stage to fart and throw poo at every man, woman, and babe watching your performance. You will watch as I defecate in their handbags. You will watch as my band members take turn clapping in your sister's face. I think that's meant to be crapping, but
I like clapping. I think it works better.
You will watch.
It's more threatening.
You will watch as my speakers drown out your crazy little fans with loud horn sounds. Then I will spoon your eyes from their sockets and let my friend Ben Baggy Denton do the rest. Come and see the gig or not.
Bastard.
Bastard. Bizarre. Unt extreme.
Yeah, bolt on.
Bolt on. Bolt on. It's possibly a silent welcoming committee. Not you, Bolter. Bolt on.
Bolton. Come and sing Dock of the Bay.
That's his name. It's never been Michael Bolton. It's Michael Bolton. I like that.
Yeah, we never saw it. It was there in plain sight all along.
It's there, and he's just still in denial. Now we know it's out there.
Absolutely. We've exposed the truth. We've exposed Bolton.
We've exposed Bolton's nuts.
We've exposed Bolton's Bolton.
Stupid Bolton.
His Lego dangle.
Ew.
27th of March. In at number 7, it's Heart by the Pet Shop Boys.
Classic Pet Shop Boys, this.
Yeah, classic Pet Shop Boys tune. And at least this heart is not broken.
Yes, it's fully finned. Fully finned. Yeah.
Yep.
Good old Pet Shop Boys. Yeah.
Number 29 is Everywhere by Fleetwood Mac.
I'm not a fan of Fleetwood Mac.
No, I'm not aware of that. I didn't know.
Although, in all fairness, that song is the one Fleetwood Mac song that I think everybody's heard.
Yeah, it's a good tune.
And then they used it in that stupid advert, didn't they, with that dancing donkey, which ruined it for everybody then. Everyone likes that song, and then now your prevailing memory of it isn't the charming little song from the 80s, it's the backward dancing donkey thing. Stupid idiots that ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Not like they don't have enough money.
Yeah, stupid.
In at number 33, That's the Way I Want to Rock and Roll by AC/DC.
Yes, and I've made a note here. Sing about something else, AC/DC. I'm just putting this out there for you. It's just an idea. Just stop singing songs about rock. You're just making statements or asking questions about rock
For
and
those
roll.
about to rock, we salute you.
Yeah.
Rock and roll, yes.
Just, sing about something else.
I did listen to this. I did listen to this the other week because this was on the album, wasn't it? And we talked about that. It's just so typical AC/DC. Riff, squawky vocals, riff, chorus in higher squawk. It's just...
That's what made them popular.
It's that... It's just that's it.
That's a good
AC/DC.
impression, actually. That
I know,
that was a very good impression.
But there you go. Number 36 is Sex Talk Live by The Pow, or T'Pow.
The Pow.
That's what they called everywhere.
Yeah.
That's what they called everywhere but Yorkshire.
You have to say T'Pow. The Pow?
The Pow.
The
Pow.
Pow. The Pow. Them Pows are up there. This was the really dirty record that got all
It's
the
rubbish.
T'Pow fans. The T'Pow fans, and we know one.
We did know one, yeah.
He was always going, I love that one, like listening to it at night. And I think about it now, it sends a shiver down my spine.
Yeah, it made my skin crawl in ways that I didn't like.
It did. And his neighbours, they'd hear that song and then they'd just be sat there shivering and crying.
Absolutely. It was so loud, his record needle picked it up.
Remember, this is the guy that fell through his own wall in his bedroom. He actually fell through his own wall and landed in his parents' bed. It's a true fact.
And had an argument so loud with his mum that his record needle picked it up.
That's so true. Yeah, those are true facts. If you don't think those things are possible, and to be clear, this isn't podcast friend Gary. This is somebody else completely, which we won't name for legal reasons. But he did fall through his own bedroom wall and land on his parents' heads when they were asleep.
Yeah,
because he literally put a hole in his bedroom wall, a body-sized hole. He was a big lad.
And also wondered why he didn't feel well enough to go out one night after eating 2 tubes of Pringles and drinking a bottle of Lilt. But there you go. These are the choices you make as a 18-year-old.
Exactly. But he was famously into that song, and that's why we mention it.
Yeah, so there you go. Sex Talk by The Pow. Number 37, Who's Leaving Who by Hazel Dean.
Hazel Dean.
So this is Who's Leaving Whom?
Yes. I'm glad you pointed that out because it's true.
Yeah.
And it should be that. It should be who's leaving whom, yes.
Yeah.
Who's really in that context as well. Just rename it. Rethink the plan.
Yeah, so it's about
Come on,
title.
Hazel.
This is sub-Bananarama style 80s pop. Bah.
It is. And his her older brother Perland was famous for being in cinemas a lot, wasn't he?
Yeah. For adverts for her dad's movies, Jimmy.
But yes, but it is sub-Bananarama style naffness, isn't it, Hazel?
It really is. Number 47, I know you like her, but not for me. Love is Stronger Than Pride by Sade or Sade.
Civisto Pop again. I thought she was quite an amazing
nice
singer.
Voice.
But,
I'll give her, she's got a lovely smooth,
silky tones,
drenched in smoothness voice.
Yeah, and another one that was ruined for the people of the small close where our friend lived because he also did the same thing to that. That was the track he played after the T'Pow one. So.
Number 70, We All Sleep Alone by Cher.
We don't.
No, we don't.
No.
Neither does Cher. She sleeps on a large pile of money with many hunky men.
Yes, that's very true, actually, yes.
So that's
I
what
read that as
anyway.
monkey men, strange enough. There's many monkey men.
Either. She's easy.
She's not fussy, actually.
She's not. She's just got a pile of money.
Yeah.
There's nothing naughty about it. They're all sleeping. Just, it's for warmth in these trying electrical times. She likes them monkey men because they're furry. So she's keeping herself nice and toasty.
She knits them into a big monkey duvet.
Absolutely. She likes the faces at the top so that they're just looking into her face while she sleeps.
God, that's unnerving.
It's just a series of monkey faces just looking down at her.
I'm getting a proper weird vibe of that. It's that movie where he stitches all those people together. It's like that. It's like...
Oh, Centipede.
No, not... God, that's even worse. I wasn't thinking of that. No, I was thinking that...
Santa Sangre?
No, it's Jeepers Creepers where he's making him into a big blank thing.
Yeah.
So God knows what movie
Jeepers
should be
Creepers
watching.
with Cher.
Yeah, just thinking that he stitches people into Jeepers Creepers where he stitches monkeys into a duvet would be weird. it wouldn't be as scary for the people in that prison when he grabs one. They're like, it's all right, he won't hurt you. You're not a monkey.
He's just got a massive duvet for the upcoming energy crisis.
It's creepy in all sorts of ways, that.
It is. And finally, just to round off at number 76 is Body and Soul by the Sisters of Mercy. This is a re-release of the 1984 EP. I presume, I couldn't find any info on this whatsoever for this release, but I presume it's obviously on the back of Floodland. I did link to the video. There is so much goth in that video. It's from the 1984 or 5 release, whenever it was. It's an okay track, but it sounds like all their other tracks from First and Last and Always. It's that sound.
Yes, it is. Yeah, so it's passable Sisters stuff, in it.
It is, yeah. It also has Wayne Hussey in it on guitar in a really bad shirt, and his hair is in a Robert Smith style. Weird to see.
Big and
really
blasted.
Odd, yeah. It's bad. It's a bad thing. It's not. It's an okay track if you like that sort of early Sisters sound.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go. So there you go. That's all the singles. Bolt on.
Bolt on.
Bolt on the pow.
Nothing really, bolt-ons.
So we're going to go and take a quick break now. We hope you enjoyed that. There's lots going on there in music. We're going to go take a quick break. We'll be back, and we've got 4 more games to still get through before the end of this podcast. So please stay with us.
A strawberry movie ice lolly and a couple of screwballs to our show sponsor davidhearnwriter.com, where you will find a remarkable collection of audiobooks, bargain books, ebooks and more. David once drank a tub of bathwater to get someone out of his bathroom. He's a brilliant author as well. Check out this audio chunk of his latest, Escape from the Commodore 64.
You can't be taking these here cars without some form of payment. Kane walked over to them and rocked back and forth on his heels. Sarah noticed how much he moved the same way she had in the game with the zappy robots. She expected him to somersault at any moment. Well, Kane said, tapping his foot impatiently. Sarah slipped her hands into her pockets, a stance she normally took when she was preparing for an argument. Her hands hit something cold and smooth. To her surprise, her blood ran cold and excitement prickled behind her ribs. Her features lit up in a classic light bulb moment. What about diamonds?
You see, I told you it was good. Now do you believe me? To grab one for yourself, and indeed any of the other works from David, visit davidhearnwriter.com. That's David, Hearne writer.com. It's as easy as typing in some words.
And we are back. We've got 4 more games. So let's not beat around the bush. Let's just get straight into them. The first one, Eyeball 2. Eyeball 2. It's got a subtitle, but I can't remember what it was. Something about
More balls.
Fate of the balls.
Yeah.
Ball fate. It's Eyeball 2. It's more Eyeball. £2. 90% silver medal, this one. Get ready. Go for it. Got speech.
Game over.
Yeah, I'd rather not, actually. So here we have the budget sequel to the racing game that was disguised as a shooter, Eyeball, in the obviously titled Eyeball 2. Once again, this is originally on the Spectrum, and it was designed by Timothy Kloss. Do old Timothy. With the C64 conversion once again being done by Andrew Betts. There's no music this time, though. No music. Bit of a loss, that. Seeing as the original was known for its cool tune. We still get the speech, though. Oh, yeah, plenty of speech. Groovy, in fact. Yeah, the instructions for this game were rubbish.
Rubbish.
Groovy,
rubbish instructions.
So just hats off to Remember, the cracking team, the crack we played, where they had taken the time to explain what to do and what all the power-ups did, which was kind of handy.
They did, yeah. Power-ups.
Yes. Very useful indeed, those instructions, so thank you very much. Not that they did me much good, though, but we'll get to that. Anyway, the balls. Highly developed balls. That's what this game's about. Highly developed balls. Intelligent balls. These balls have a hankering for knowing where they came from. What is their origin? What is their ancestry? Whence did they evolve? Noble questions to posit, but to find out, they will have to brave the radioactive ancient minds and all the evil that lurks within. For such highly evolved balls, you think they may have invented Ancestry.com by now, but obviously not. And they could have found out exactly where they came from, but, maybe they haven't got the internet. No thumbs, I suppose, have they, to type?
No thumbs.
Just
thumbs.
No thumbs. Just all balls.
All balls. Balls. No thumbs. Balls.
Anyway, You need to navigate these mines, which consist of 50 single-screen locations, and collect any objects you see that might shed light on the ball evolution conundrum. So, this is a single-screen platformer puzzle hybrid, I guess. It's very different. So, it's very different to the first game. Looks the same, though. There's similar single-color sprites and random design ethos. Navigating the screens is simple enough. All you have to do is collect the... the aim of navigating the screens is simple enough. Let's say that. Let's rephrase that.
Yes.
All you have to do is click the key and get to the exit to progress. That's it. Simple. What could be easier? Do this 50 times and you will uncover the secrets of your past. But nothing is ever easy. And the radioactive mines are littered with 2 types of enemies. The first of those that shimmer and flash in the light. These are invulnerable to your bullets and must be avoided at all costs. The second are the ever-spawning killable kind. These will succumb to your bullets. But more and more will always replace them. Floating around and collision with these will also kill you. If you collide with the flash ones, it will also kill you. Die 3 times and there's no more ancestral quest for you. Each screen is also littered with various objects, ranging from magic bombs to life particles to gemstones. You navigate the screens with left and right. Don't move left and right. Up is to jump, fire is to shoot your laser, and push down and fire to place a bomb if you have any. Placing a bomb will kill all enemies on screen when it detonates. If you collect 4 life particles, you will gain an extra life. Gemstones can have a multitude of effects, such as extra firepower, which is self-explanatory, fuel injection, which doubles your speed and makes you just a pain in the ass to control, muddle, which reverses the controls, time factor warp, not time warp factor, time factor warp, which slows down the enemies, deep freeze, which freezes the enemies for a short time, super bounce, which means jump higher, boring bounce, which puts you jump back down to normal, down to earth, which I thought was going to stop you bouncing, but doesn't. It actually deactivates the flashing, indestructible enemies that are moving, making them stop moving and fall to the floor. Neutralization, which deactivates those flashing that are not moving. Magic treasure, which gains you points and also does the same thing as neutralization. Easy way out, which turns all obstacles to exit fields, which makes it, you can get out easily. And stop the clock, which stops the timer for a short period. Some of them reminded me of the game Baba Is You. Did you ever play Baba Is You?
I have not.
It's a very, very good single-screen puzzle game, which is very, very clever, but much better than this. The in-game screen has the game on the left 3/4 of the screen and the UI on the right. This UI shows the timer at the bottom, which counts down from 99, so you've got 99 seconds to get through the screen. The score, and then the number of lives, the life particles you've collected, the bombs you've collected, the gems you've collected, and the keys you've collected. So that all information is on the UI on the right. So with all of that explained, it's here that I say that I hated this. I absolutely detested this game. The screens are narrow and annoying to navigate. The enemies will very often just slowly trap you in a corner, and death is more often than not, unavoidable. The jump is stupid. It's like a Mounty Bound, but it's a bounce and it's stupid. And whilst I like some very tough platformers, see things like what we played, like Hercules, Gods and Monsters, they were both all right. And then games like N++ and Super Meat Boy down the line. This feels incredibly punitive and unfair, and above all, not enjoyable in the slightest to play. I appreciate they wanted to do something different for the sequel, but this, for me, is a huge misstep. It's annoying and fiddly and twitchy and generally unpleasant. Navigating the screens is a pain in the ass. Why they did not think to keep the control system from the first game, allowed you to navigate them in that way, or at least shrunk the sprites down to give you some room to maneuver, I'll never know. It's a load of balls as far as I'm concerned, and not the good ones. It's so tricky to actually make your way through anything. The jump, if you collect like the fuel injection, you don't slow down, so you're constantly moving left and right. You can barely stop. You have to tweak the joystick just right. The enemies are just floating all around the place. The jump is huge, so you're oftentimes just jumping into stuff. You just navigating some of these rooms is just a pain in the ass. There's one where there's some grey blocks where you've got to get underneath and jump into them, but you instantly bounce down and bounce straight back up to them, and they're coming down, so they kill you. Nothing is enjoyable here. It's a pain in the ass in every single way. It randomizes the first 5 screens for the first screen you start off from the first 5 as well, and that's okay. That's quite nice thing to see, but none of these screens are enjoyable to play. None of them offer anything like fun. It's just frustration, and I don't understand what exactly they were going for. The first one was hard, but once you got into the groovy, once you got into the rhythm of it and everything, it was actually pretty decent, and I got quite far in the first one. But this, I couldn't get anywhere because I just couldn't control it properly. I utterly hated this, even at £2. No, this is such a huge misstep from the first one. I don't know what went on here. They just did something different, and it misfired on all on all levels. And, it don't even have that music. Don't even have some music to keep you going. Bah, no. 90%. They loved it. I don't know what they were smoking. I thought it was terrible. What about you?
Yeah, didn't know what to make of it, really. Felt to me like it was a kind of a Spectrum game, really, in a C64. Wasn't very C64-like. And didn't have any of the strengths, really, anyway, either. Gameplay was really weird. Had a weird Cauldron 2 vibe almost about it, but not very good version. I suppose it played okay if that's your bag. For me, the main issues were who wanted this sequel anyway? Nobody I know wanted it. Eyeball was quite good. Nobody wanted an Eyeball 2. Seems obtuse. Why not keep all the music and vibes that was in the first one? Yes, I guess there's speech, but the speech wasn't the thing. The music was the thing. The speech was a nice little extra thing. But they made a big thing of the speech, all right? But not in a good way. So it just makes it really annoying. And then, most importantly, why pick the most obtuse parts of the first game and make more of those parts? Why not pick the good things from the first game and make more of those parts? They've just picked the weird crap from the first game that didn't really make any sense anyway and made a game out of it, which is just not a very good idea. So I suppose the only saving grace here is £2. I don't get why it got 90%, but it's all subjective, isn't it? Just rubbish, this. Not enjoyable. It's certainly a long way. I mean, like you say, Eyeball wasn't perfect, but Eyeball was £2 worth of decent music from Hubbard, bit of nice speech, and a race game, essentially, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
This is some hybrid, nonsensical load of garbage. £2, too much. No, thanks. No, I do not ball 2. I do not ball 2 at all. Yeah,
the thing with Eyeball was it looked like a vertical scrolling shooter, but it wasn't. It was a racing game. You just had to leg it. Yeah. And, it rewarded pace and going crazy and, being adventurous and being, what's the word I'm looking for? Just going for it, just taking the chance, risky, taking those risks, and that's what that game rewarded. This doesn't do any of that. It's boring and methodical and plodding. No,
those aren't good things.
No, it's not. Really disappointed with this because I was thinking, Eyeball 2, this might be thing. I was like, what's this? No good. Because I never actually, I don't think I saw this back then. I don't think I was aware of it, and I've never really heard it mentioned by anyone, which is always a.
Yeah, I'd heard it, and I somehow managed to avoid it. I'm wondering if I'd got it from some crack or something and seen it and thought, ugh, goodness me, that's awful. So
yeah, there we go. Eyeball poo.
Eyeball poo it is.
Simple, but effective.
Yes.
Take them when they're there. Let's move along, because surely the next one must be better. Graham, what's it like being a little green man?
Well, I can tell you, it ain't no fun. It's this from Bug Bite. It says, created by Peter Tulby, with the musician was Andy Brown. The irony of there being a musician called Andy Brown in a game called Little Green Man wasn't lost on me for some chuckles. Just saying. You are the king of little green men, and you have escaped from your captors, but now you're stranded on the world. This is basic. I'm not even going to go too far into it, because essentially you've got to basically get to your spaceship in a scrolling sort of series of running jumps, and it reminded me of Freddy Hardest in that kind of way. Mm-hmm. That kind of running from left to right on the screen, jumping over stuff and dying a lot, because you'll do that a lot in this god-awful, nasty piece of shite. So that's it. That's the mainstay of the game, because that's as far as I got. And I had no reason to believe that it got any more complex than that, looking at some of the screens. I just thought this was horrible. Really horribly weird music in this. Really awful. So sorry, Andy Brown, but no. Dead annoying opening when you start the levels as well. He appears on like some kind of electric shower.
It's supposed to be a transporter, I think.
Yeah, no. And then before long, you're being chased by something from the left, which will kill you, because the chances of you being able to jump accurately on this are impossible because of the way they've made the jumping stupid. So the controls of this actually prevent you from jumping in the way you want at any given moment. So you're never really going to be able to, because you have to run. To jump sort of sideways and over things, you have to run. So you can't, but if you're not moving, I think you can't jump. I think that's how it works.
Yep.
So why isn't the fire button just jump all the time? Why is it only jump if you're going in a certain way? And even then, it's got to be pixel accurate to jump over these little things, or you're dead. The graphics are really flickery, even there's only one sprite on the screen, really, principally.
Yeah.
Which is kind of unforgivable, really. If you've got flickery scrolling on one sprite, your multiplex is not just bad, you haven't got one, and what are you doing? Stop right there. Colours on this are really green, obviously, for your little man. But I think the background graphics, as I remember, they were this kind of blue-purple colour.
Yeah, they're like white
sort
and
of
blue,
mountains,
I think, aren't
and yeah, sort of weird trees, and obviously the enemies that you come across, should you even get to them, have got to kind of have a green. They're all green. It doesn't matter. This game looks and plays badly, if not brokenly. It looks like it was created back in 1983 and then it's just been sat in some cupboard somewhere and someone's thought, I know, I'll make a few quid off of that. Let's stick it out. This is £3, though. So this is supposed to be upper class budget. I'm like, come on, are you having a laugh? This is awful. Just terrible, terrible, terrible thing. I had no fun with this, which is, and a game that principally involves you moving one direction and jumping periodically, which it prevents you from doing those two things. You don't run for very long because you'll be dead. And you can't jump properly. Those are the two things that it's supposed to do. Without those things, you're no more of a king of the little green people than anybody else is. You're not a king in this world. It's just, and why would you persist with it? Why would you persist? You only get 3 lives. You're never going to make it to the end. Never in a million years. And if you do, by some miracle, you're never going to get through this game. God knows if there's anything at the end of it. I doubt it. I doubt it very much. So, no, if you escape from your captors on this, good luck. I hope you do. And there are checkpoints in it. So you can get so far and it does... You don't always start from the beginning of the level when you die. I suppose that's maybe a saving grace. I did, though, because I never got very much further than the beginning of the first level because I kept dying on them little pop-up pit things that I couldn't seem to jump over them. I jumped over the first one by a miracle once, and then the second one, which is very shortly after that.
I did get past the first transporter.
But no, I didn't get much further than that. And that's because that by then the tedium of this nonsense had kicked in. I thought, no. So I switched it off. 52% it scored in Zap. £3. £3 too much. This is the triple budget bastardry. We haven't had this for a while, have we? But Little Green Man can do one. It was bloody awful. About you?
Yeah, I knew when we started this podcast there'd be games like this, like forgotten games, forgotten to the mists of time for good reason. And this is weird. What even is this? The singular positive thing I can say about this is that it feels odd and weird, and it feels like it's fallen through some strange hole in space and time from somewhere else, somewhere where Mario never happened, and platformers like this are the norm.
Yeah.
It's somewhere that I never want to go to, as this is painful to play in just about every way. The movement is sluggish, the jumping is pixel perfect, the delay between goes is infuriating, the speech is hilarious.
Oh, I forgot about the speech.
The speech when you fall down the holes and it goes, bye. I've laughed my head off for ages. Bye.
Forgot about the crappy speech.
You have to insert the speech here. You have to get it and put it in.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it.
It's terrible. Everything about this is wrong. And even at budget price, this feels all kinds of bad. The monotonous drone of the music and the weird stylings felt like I was being programmed into doing something I wanted no part of. So I switched it off very quickly and then went for a walk in the sun. It felt really weird. It felt like there's something being done to my brain. It feels like like a dark thing. Like the other one we played. What was it? The Necromancer?
Yeah.
Remember that? There's certain games that feel like they're getting under your skin in some kind of,
we
horrible
branded
way.
them in the last episode. We called them, they're Pontypool games.
Yes. Yeah. There's something weird about some of these games.
Yeah, we can't explain how, but they're part of the Pontypool problem.
Yeah. Kisses kill.
Yeah.
This is crap.
Yeah.
I think there are games on the C64 that were not meant for this world, and this is one of them. But also, this is really shit.
Just a bit.
This is shit. Pontypool. It really is terrible. It's really bad. The fact that the platforming is just garbage. When you do get past the first transporter, there's a ladder you've got to climb, but there's a green alien stuck at the top of this ladder at these little bricks, and it just shoots at you, and you move so slowly that you just can't get out of the way because everything's sluggish and slow. And how can you be this slow with one sprite on screen?
Don't ask that question because that's Pontypool.
It is, yeah. If you ask too many questions about Little Green Man, then Little Green Men will come for you, I feel.
Yeah, like that Phantasm movie. They're just little green people appear in your house and just start smashing shit up.
Absolutely. Well, we just had a game about balls. Now we've had a game about...
It's all making sense. Be careful. Yeah. The tall man will be in.
The tall man. Angus. Oh, he'll be here. Oh, crap. What a crap game that was.
Awful.
Let's
be
move
gone,
on.
demon.
Surely the next one will be better. He's back. The man behind the mask. Anyway, Osmium. Osmium. Sounds bad to say. Osmium. Sounds like that second class return to Nottingham.
Just Osmium.
Osmium. So you can't say this without sounding like you got a blocked nose. What are you playing?
You
Osmium.
It's got any rings in either gold, silver, or Osmium.
Sorry, sir. You want the shop down the road?
Yes.
The chemist.
Yes. Tunes. Sorry.
Yes. I'd still like an osmium ring.
Osmium.
That's above the chemist. Anyway, where to start with this? Let's start with what it says in the case. Do you know what it says in the case, Graham? It says, hurtle over the surface of the planet Osmium, the most dangerous planet in the galaxy, in a high-speed, action-packed fight to the death. Does that sound like this
dangerous?
game?
No, it isn't. But why is it dangerous?
I don't know. That's all it says.
You're not even on a planet.
That's all it says. I don't know. Yeah, it's not this game.
No, it's
I
not.
thought if Delta is Delta, then this is probably pre-alpha or something.
Delta, honestly.
This is from Darren Watts. Alistair Darren Watts, the guy who did Zip.
He did Zip, all right.
And we have another awful shmup. He did that other one as well, that Forbidden Zone rip-off we saw the other Into the Other World, whatever, the other week. Another awful shmup. In fact, all that seems to have happened is that he's added screen shake and rotated Zip 90 degrees.
Oh, the screen shake. The endless screen shake.
We'll get to that. According to Moby Games, though, the planet Osmium is home to the evil Rexilian Blitz Troopers, and your mission is to fly over the surface of the planet and destroy them all.
Could have put that on the cassette, couldn't they?
It's still a load of stupid nonsense. Anyway, this is a left-to-right scrolling shmup in the same mold, and it's same mold as Delta. So if you want to reference,
mold is one word.
If you want a reference point for what type of game this is, it's as Zip was Warhawk, this is Delta, and it's not just Delta in style, but anyway, we'll come to that. As noted, it's made by Darren Watts. Has music by Jay Derritt, someone else who seems to be everywhere now. I've seen a lot of his tunes. When the game loads, we get an animated title screen with a really solid piece of music. Probably the best thing about it, all told. It's far too good for this game, but that's not the first time we've said that, and probably not the last.
Where's he got the music from? Because it ain't from. Who did it?
Jay Derritt.
Yeah, that's what I mean, but I'm feeling it isn't. I think he's borrowed it from somewhere.
Oh, has it? Oh, maybe he has, sort of thing. But
it's too good.
It is a very, very good piece of music. I was listening to it for ages. I thought, this is really good. But anyway, what it is. The main title screen is a series of panels. Start in the middle, then move down to the bottom right, listing first the credits. It's like they ran out of space. It's like,
stupid.
Why didn't you start them in the top left? Or not do them that way? Like they're overlaying. It's dead weird. So they go down to the bottom right. They list the credits. Then you get two of how to play, which is just shoot stuff. And finally, there's some greetings, like it's a demo. Really weird. We then also get a screen showing us what the power-ups do and what scores aliens give. And when you see the power-ups, you might say to yourself, well, they look familiar. And that's because they are. They're straight out of Delta.
Just a bit. Literally,
they are. There's blue sprites, blue squares out of Delta. So as much of this game, really. If Delta was eaten first by as much of this game, if Delta was eaten first by a cow, then it had to traverse the four stomachs and plop its way to the earth at the end. That's what this game is. But also, there's some things in the border as well. I have a feeling that he was a demo coder, just thought he'd make some games. So it's neat, I guess, some border stuff. Pressing the fire button gets into the game, and aren't they the same sprites from Zip, only rotated 90 degrees?
Yes.
I think they are. And why does the screen shake constantly? Why?
Don't ask.
First impressions do not bode well, and they are likely to be the best impressions you have of this. Enemies approach from the right or left in waves, and you must dodge or shoot them. Every so often, the power-ups will scroll across, and you've got to shoot the ones you want, from speed up to extra firepower to bonus points. And more enemies appear, and it all looks bad, and it plays worse. The ship is a knockoff from Iridium in the way that it does that flip thing, so it looks like a crappy Iridium knockoff. Same kind of rotation. The waves of enemies are just poor variants of those we saw in Zip, and ultimately, knocked off from Delta. A few waves in, you'll either be dead bored or dead bored, and we'll want to turn this off, which is what you should do. The waves of enemies are random, and some just whiz through the middle, others wobble about, and there are the expected pillars to negotiate. And just go play Delta. It's better than this in every way. And even £2, the constant wobbling of the landscape, which, by the way, doesn't affect the waves. So it's just a landscape wobbling for some reason. The whole screen just shakes. So there's a landscape at the bottom. It's just shuddering. The whole screen there's no explanation for it. I don't understand. Nope. It's just crap. This crap feel of the whole thing makes it a complete waste of time and effort. Bad. Oh, it's got some speech too, hasn't it? Which I can't remember now, but that was also bad. This was awful. Osmium. Can I have some Osmium? This was awful. 33% it got. Too much. I'll give it 33% for the music, because the music is actually pretty decent. I will give it that, and I did like it. And to be fair, I was because it only got 37% for sound in the review, and I think that's quite harsh, because I think that tune deserves more. But the rest of the game is just god awful. It's just Zip on the side, so just as bad. It's just crap. What were we thinking?
Do you mean they were thinking about anything in particular?
What did you think?
It was a shit Delta ripoff.
Yep.
And a really shit one where I think ripped some of the graphics out of Delta blatantly, or at least, well, I know the graphics are just blue squares for the power-up things when they appear, but they appear in exactly the same way, in exactly the same manner, It's Delta. It's just a bad rip-off of Delta. Even the things in the top and bottom border are out of Delta. Delta does that.
Yep.
Only it does it properly, not like this. This is. I have a funny feeling, and I could be wrong, but I wonder if you went into the code in here, you'd find it's probably a little bit of someone's hacked out Delta, maybe a little bit here. This is far too similar to be able to get away with it. I don't care if it's a budget price. This is just rubbish. This is just rubbish and just awful. And like you said, the music's passable, I suppose, but everything else here is a waste of your time. There's no fun to be had. It's like Zip. Same problem with Zip. It's just get rid of these things. They're just crap. There's so many good games out there that are better than this. So no. Just you're taking advantage of people's pocket money here. The target market for the people who are likely to buy this, outside of grandmas and things, which we've already said many times, the target they're aiming for are kids who have a little bit of pocket money to spend, which means you're ripping off kids. And that's not nice. Nope. That is not a nice thing to do. So I think don't do that. And this is, if we're going to look back at his history and it teaches anything, that just seems to be a really mean thing to do, because that is what you're doing. You are making a game that would appeal to the only people who would really have the kind of money that $1.99 reaches for are those kids. That's a kid you're aiming that at. That's isn't an adult's going to have Delta or have the money to buy Delta. So I think I think it's an absolute shocking thing to do. Rotten. And I don't know whether that's Bug Bite who put this out. Is it?
No, this is Powerhouse again.
So it's Powerhouse, is it? So this is obviously Powerhouse's MO. Rip off kids. Well, get lost. Take the crappy games with you and erase yourself from time and space immediately. Nope, rubbish.
Yep, awful.
Ripping off kids is a nasty thing to do, I think, and that's clearly what that is. I'm sorry, but it is.
No, you're right. I agree with you completely. It is a piece of arse. This really bad.
It is.
There we go. That's our third. Yeah, like you said, triple budget bastards.
Yeah, Battle of the Bastards.
Yeah, it really is. Let's move on. We've got one game left. Let's see if it gets any better. Graham, Garfield's Big Fat Hairy Deal.
Garfield. Everyone loved Garfield. Garfield was a big deal, wasn't he, back in the mid-80s?
He was massive, yeah.
Yeah, huge. Massive popularity. Not so much now, but he was massive then. There's still a thing, a little garlic, a little, I don't know why I said garlic, a little Garfield thing, I suppose. This is from The Edge. Copyright is Soft Tech International. Have we come across them before recently?
Maybe.
Musicians Neil Baldwin, otherwise known as Demon. Garfield, if in case you're wondering what I'm talking about, is a fictional cat. It is a protagonist of a comic strip and a large series of books, and also a comic strip, and also a cartoon and a live action movie, and a big deal. Created by somebody called Jim Davis.
Soft Tech did Inside Out or Debonair.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, so it's the Edge people, isn't it? The Edge,
yeah.
The Edges. So not the guy from U2. So the actual comic strip of Garfield centers on Garfield, who is a cat, and he's portrayed as kind of a big, cynical, sardonic, sarcastic, tabby kind of cat. Famous for loving lasagna, coming out with cracking one-liners. He lives with in a house with a guy called John. He also has a dog called Odie. He has a sort of a side girlfriend called Arlene, I think, kind of a character. There's a range of characters, and there's even one called Nermal, I think, which is like a little smart aleck sort of kitten that he hates. And the mainstay of the cartoon comic is Garfield making smart ass comments about stuff. He hates Mondays, for example. He has a hatred of Mondays, and he comes out and he's also, he's famously quite fat for a cat, so he doesn't actually do much exercise. And there's just insert lots of little skits about that kind of thing that work in the context of a comic. Now, so the game is based on that. Now, there's very much a definitive style to how Jim Davis drew Garfield. So Garfield, although it's a cat, it's kind of a big wide cat, big wide head. It's principally a sort of characterization of that, but still very much Garfield. If you saw it, you'd know it was Garfield. So it's kind of almost like a brand, a bit like Tom and Jerry is, a bit like, it's a cat. It's not just a derivative cat. It is a stylized version of that. So important to note that. In the game on the C64, your girlfriend Arlene has been captured and is in the cat pound, or rescue centre as we call them now. Garfield's got to navigate through John's house, through the streets and the alleyways, various sewers and other flick screen locations, looking for objects to gather up and use in various locations that will help him eventually rescue Arlene. In addition, there is food dotted about which Garfield must eat too, or run the risk of becoming too lethargic and thus becoming unwilling to help and keep going, and gets bored of the task. There's also hazards that will get in your way,
such as rats and shopkeepers and other things. And if they contact you or make contact with you, they will reduce your energy levels that you have. If you lose your energy or you become too lethargic, it's game over. So you control Garfield with the joystick, where you can walk, jump, pick up objects, and kick. And that means you can lash out at Lodi, so you can periodically boot him across the screen, which is kind of leaning into the kind of relationship that Garfield has over Odie. Odie's a bit of a brain-dead dog. Dogs in this are kind of seen as brain-dead, sort of barking, throw a bone and the dog will go play fetch, and a bit brainless, whereas cats are seen as very smart, able to vocalize and speak and talk and all that kind of stuff. So you move around, obviously, in the game, pick things up, and then you've got to use them in the right locations. When you do that, as you'll start to crack the various things needed. Now, some of those objects are a bit obtuse, and some of the ways you use them, even more obtuse. Seems to be the curse of these kind of games. A bit Jack the Nippery in that respect, and a few others that are a bit like this.
Yep.
The main window of the game is the play area, with a very well-realised cartoon-looking set of backgrounds and very, very good sprites. There's a lot to like in that. This does look the part. It looks like Garfield. It animates really well. It animates like a good Garfield. Perhaps over-animates a little bit, because there's some of the controls are a little bit haphazard because of that, but it has a really nice flow. And the response from Garfield, although it is a tad sluggish, it does kind of go with the game. If you go with the idea that Garfield is a big lumpy cat that doesn't really want to do much of anything anyway, and kind of is a bit self-centered and sarcastic. There's a jaunty, if gradually annoying, tune that plays as you work around. You work around through the various screens, and the UI gives you your current energy lethargy indications. You score some Garfield-like phrases, which is kind of a leaning into the sort of comic books that there were. So I hate Mondays and oh, where's my lasagna? And it's all okay. Also plays like a reasonable arcade adventure type thing, flick screen thing, if that's the kind of thing that you like. Okay. But that is both the blessing and the curse of this game for me. It looks like Garfield and it plays like it should, but it's not very much fun. And indeed, that's the problem. It's neither very funny or very much fun. In fact, it gets pretty boring wandering around, because there's little to no payoff for things in this. Nothing really pays off in a way. And we had the same complaint about Jack the Nipper, as I recall, that it all feels like a meaningless wandering around picking stuff up, but the payoffs aren't there. The connection isn't there between the object you pick up and the big thing that it's going to do, nor does the big thing happen, generally speaking. So gradually that meandering around, picking stuff up, picking up the aniseed balls and taking them over there, picking up the dog ball and taking it over there, and doing those things. We said it way back in the early days of this podcast. I don't really like games where I pick up an object, go 50 screens to the right, put it down somewhere, pick another one up, go 50 screens to the left. They're not my cup of tea, that. No matter how you dress that up. And this is dressed in really good looking Garfield sprites and animations. It really looks the part and sort of has a vibe about it. But the actual game itself is boring, and that's such a tragedy, really. So it goes from being what could have been something quite fun to something which is actually quite funless. So that's a shame. I think they've had a good crack at this license in a way that we've not seen often. So there's so much that's nearly there with this. It's annoying, really. But the main issue for me, and this overlays the fact that the game gets stuck, because you could, if you like mapping and you like these kind of arcade adventures, some people do, you might like that kind of wandering around picking stuff up. Maybe that's your thing. But the real problem here for me is that the humor and the sardonic nature of Garfield, with all the layers of sarcasm, don't make for anything tangible in a game. And that's a problem when the fundamental part of the character in the game is those things. Because otherwise, it could be any character wandering around. It doesn't have to be Garfield. It could be anybody. In order for it to be Garfield, the mainstay of the game and the design of the game had to revolve around Garfield doing things that Garfield doesn't want to do, and making those things really difficult and having a good payoff for them when they do. That would have worked, but how do you convey sarcasm in a game where you're controlling a sprite, picking up aniseed balls or just maneuvering around a screen? Those things, it just doesn't have that, and that's a real problem. So it's a looker. Graphics are good. Say the sounds, less so maybe, but at least it's passable. It does get annoying in the end. But for me, it's back to, how do you solve a problem like comic book humor? I'm not sure you can. I'm not sure you can. It certainly doesn't work here. So that's for my my 2 pennies worth. I don't know what Garfield would have said to that. Big deal, maybe. I don't know.
Probably.
I haven't read any Garfield books in years. What about you?
Yeah, isn't this just everyone's a Wally, Pyjamarama, Herbert's do your own Jack the Nipper,
Yeah,
so
totally
on,
those
so
things,
on,
yeah.
so on. It's just that template stuck on Garfield. Yes, it's well presented, but the presentation gets in the way of the playing for me, I thought. The animation and rendition of Garfield is great. It feels like Garfield, where he wanders, where he walks around, so that. But the problem with that is he's not he doesn't control snappily enough for what the game actually wants you to
Controls
do.
were weird, weren't they?
Like you want him to jump, but you have to get. He kind of has to animate down to a jump and push, and so you just kind of fall off stuff. Trying to get on the table, and they'll just walk off the table. It's just like I don't know. So there's a delay between wanting to do something and him doing it, and it becomes painful because it leads to missed jumps and the like, and that may be true to the character, but it then leads to bad gameplay.
Yes,
so that you've got a disconnect there in what this game wants you to do, but in trying to stay true to the character, you can't do it. The visuals, as I said, they're excellent. The music does get annoying. They've captured the feel and look of Garfield, but is Garfield often wandering about the place trying to find things and give them to their rightful owners or whatever? Is that Garfield?
More often than not, he's not moving.
No, it's exactly it. It reminded me as well, alongside those other games, of Handicap as well, the Handicap game.
Yeah.
Because again, that looked the part, but you're trying to cram this template of game onto something else. I get it. It's an arcade adventure. It's what you do. But is that Garfield, or is that the Garfield license and look shoehorned into a tried and tested game template of the time? That's essentially what we've got. Add to this the fact that you are constantly battling hunger and tiredness, which work at odds with each other, seemingly. If I move, I get tired, but I must move to get food, or else I get too hungry and it's also game over. Either those bars reach zero, it's game over. So if I move, I get tired. That goes down. If it takes me too long to find food, that also things. But I've been wandering around, so I'm getting these don't seem to work together. I have to sit down to get my tiredness back up, but then I'm getting hungry. It's like, pick a system. Pick one way to punish me. Two opposing mechanics make this more of a chore than it needs to be. As these kind of games go, these arcade adventures, I guess it's okay. But is it Garfield? Was Scooby-Doo suited to being a Kung Fu Master clone? Nope. It's the same here. It's forcing a license into a template, a size 10 foot into a size 7 shoe, a square peg into a round hole. What could you do with the Garfield license? Well, maybe the question should have been, should there be a Garfield game?
Yep, exactly.
Probably not. But licenses bring money, and when you can recognize the characters and shove them into a hole and kind of make them fit, even if the essence of what made those characters is lost somewhat, I guess it doesn't really matter, really, if someone made some money somewhere along the way, because that's all they were bothered about. These are just, licenses to print cash. And that's what they had. Big fat hairy deal is on the nose. This one, as it sounds like what went on behind the scenes. I think. I think we've both spotted this a mile off. You're shoving you're shoving a license into something that can't. Games are not built for this sort of thing. You either make it, don't do it, and like you said, it could be anything wandering about. They'll make it anything. Then, Basil the Great Mouse Detective, that kind of at least thing, because he's going around hunting for stuff and trying to find stuff out. Game wasn't great, but at least it kind of fitted the license a little bit. This does not fit the license in any way, shape, or form. I also thought as well with Garfield, just as a thing about Garfield, was Garfield like, because when Garfield came out here, and when I first kind of got aware of him in the 80s, became aware of him, it seemed very different, didn't it? Because it's very different to British humour, which around at the time was very anarchic. So your Monty Pythons, your Young Ones, those kind of things, which, that kind of in your face, like, oh, craziness. That kind of laid back, slouched humour. Was Garfield based on people like Lenny Bruce I don't know. Things like that, those that kind of American humor, what became like Al, what's his face in Married with Children, and people like that.
Maybe
is there a lineage going back to that kind, and is Garfield part of that lineage? I
think yes. There's the sort of there's a comedian that's American comedian. I can't remember his name now. He does the voices in Reservoir Dogs on the radio.
I know the one you mean. Yes.
And there's that sort of sarcastic. It is. There must be an American tradition to it.
Christopher Lloyd's character in Taxi, kind of bit spaced out and laid back.
Maybe there is. In fact, there probably definitely is.
I know Garfield sort of predates that bit, but that kind. And I thought that that was probably why you kind of think over here, because that wasn't British humor. That's kind of this laid back stoner. Or not stoner, but kind of a bit whatever.
Well, it's leaning on the kind of Peanuts type.
Yeah, downbeat. The world isn't
Snoopy,
great, and,
that kind of thing, and
what you're going to do? Might as well just go back to sleep.
Yeah, that I think it is probably stemming from that kind of. That is a very American type idea. I didn't do a lot of research into Garfield for this, other than the sort of top level stuff.
But I couldn't find any sort of direct reference of what sort of led it. Lots of like. The normal panels in the comics. There are normally three panels in the comic books, and normally it's Garfield in a situation, somebody notices, Garfield says witty one-line response. Yeah.
So one of a couple of them are what are you doing in there, Garfield? Well, and I'm getting, I don't know, I can't crack a Garfield joke.
I know what you mean. Yes, I know. But I was just wondering
where that comes from. I don't know
if that lineage was going back into those kind of, and where that sort of started with that kind of not Bilko-esque, but
Well, interestingly, the books were massively popular in the UK, the comic books, because there was loads and loads of Garfield books that came out at one point.
yeah, there was.
But there was about 15 to 20 of them, sort of small format books. But the cartoon was not very popular in the UK. I don't know how the films fared, the films with Bill Murray doing the voice, but I think by then, it was nobody really was into Garfield. But there was a point when it was quite popular to have those little Garfield books. I had a few of them. I think I got a few for birthday presents back in the day.
Yeah, I just remember them sort of sitting alongside the Far Side books and things like that.
Yeah. I just don't remember my sides splitting thinking about them now. I don't quite know why I quite liked them, but there was the Big Fat Hairy Deal, I think, is the name of one of the books, I think, and that was the kind of sort of witty one-line type idea. I'm not sure where it comes from. Interesting, actually. I should probably look that up.
Maybe. But it was just a thought. I was just kind of wondering if it was into and why it was
None of that made it into this game, though.
No, well, they tried to with some of the sort of text that comes up at the bottom and some of the things, but like I said, you're just shoehorning a license onto a template.
Yeah.
That's it.
What did Zapped make of it? They gave it 80 odd, didn't they?
They gave 79. Brilliant graphics, good sound. Hookability and lastability was down low. It said it was too easy to solve and stuff, but it looks the part. But it essentially the same as us. But it says you realise that it's just another one of them.
Yeah,
which is fair enough.
True, very true.
It is. There you go. That's it for this week. We have looked at 8 games, and it's not been a great bunch.
Well, I wouldn't say there was even 8 games there, because some of those don't deserve to be called games.
That's true. So we started off with Project Stealth Fighter, which was so stealthy we couldn't find the fun in it.
Yeah.
Demon Stalkers, which maybe called Demon Stalkers, or it may be called Cavlax Revenge, or who knows? Who knows what it goes by? We have Zip, which was awful.
Crap.
Sidearms, which ironically was probably the best one.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Out of that lot. Yeah, probably.
It's low, but there you go.
Yeah, it's the least shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Eyeball 2, which was not great. Little Green Man, which was abysmal.
Awful.
Osmium.
Osmium. Tunes.
I suppose, if I'm being honest, probably Garfield's Big Fat Hairy Deal was probably the most technically accomplished. Actually, Project Stealth Fighter was the most technically accomplished.
Yeah.
Let's not beat around the bush. But which was the most fun to play? I probably had most fun with Sidearms, but it's not been a great week.
No, there's a bunch of difficult. I mean, I admire Project Stealth Fighter and the people that dig it, but it's not my thing. And out of that lot, that's probably the one that's technically head and shoulders miles above everything else, like you say. Yeah. But Garfield certainly looks the part, and I suppose it's the most accomplished whole game there, other than because the rest of them are very hit and miss, to say the least.
Yeah, true. Anyway, there we go. It's not been a great week. What we getting into next week? So we're carrying on with March. Got another 8 games. We've got IO to look at.
Oh God, we won't last long in that.
Set difficulty 2. Astronomical. Masters of the Universe, the movie.
Oh, God.
Fruit Machine Simulator. Okay. Yay! That sounds great. Sidewalk, the follow-up to Sidearms.
It doesn't sound very exciting. Pavement.
Zybex.
That's meant to be pretty good, Zybex.
I've heard that's pretty good. Point X.
Oh, that's a new one. Never heard
of that. Who knows? A Question of Scruples.
Okay.
Which is the board game. So get ready to be scrupled, Graham. And finally, Battle Valley. Which,
I think Battle Valley might be the first Jerome or Jerome Tell. I don't know how you pronounce his name, actually. Jerome, I guess. Jerome Tell piece of music in a game. I think, yeah. I'm not sure. There might be. We'll do a bit of checking. I have a feeling it might be. And I have a feeling he was maybe 14 when he did that.
Wow. That's incredible.
I could be completely wrong, so please don't quote me on that. But I have a feeling he was very young when he did that, and that might be the very first game. I'm not saying it's his first piece of music, but it's certainly one of the first
Jerome
game
Tell
pieces.
Was 14 when he did the music for Battle Valley 2, according to Graham Raddings on Zapped to the Past podcast.
Don't know. You'd have to look it up. I suppose we will do when we come to it.
We will do when we come to look at that. That's it. That's for next week.
That's it.
As ever, if you wish to support the podcast, you can do, and you can do that in a financial manner rather than just giving us a listen or a download. You can do that by heading on over to patreon.com/zapped to the past. Get your episodes early, a few days early, and advert free. So you can be listening to them over the weekend, and you can do that for a very small fee. So you can either to get them, it's the £4.50 tier, so it's not much. and we really appreciate that. It helps us keep the wheels spinning and keep the servers on and everything like that, and keeps us doing what we're doing. You'll get bonus episodes, early episodes for everything we do, access to our Discord server, which is a cool little community with high score challenges and weekly challenges and things like that, and just general good chit chat and vibes. So if you want all that, then come along, and obviously the pleasure of just helping us out, that's all cool. Come along and sign on up. So that's patreon.com/zapped to the past. You can also, download us, rate us, review us on iTunes. Oh, I suppose it does something. I don't know. But, it'd be cool if you could do something. That would be very nicely appreciated. I think that's it. I don't think I've got much else that I need to add this week. We're into March. We're almost getting through a quarter of the way through the year already. Feels like only yesterday. We were just finishing off 1987. But we're moving on in.
This could be the episode where we hit 64,000 downloads as well.
I will have hit it before this.
Okay.
I guarantee you. I think, we will have hit it before this. We'll hit it with 79. So we will have hit 64,000 downloads. I know we will. There you go. I guarantee it. We're almost there now. Sort of thing, which is cool.
To say
64K.
guarantee.
64K. I'm saying it now. I'm putting my money where my mouth is.
Okay.
64K. We will have hit it. And that is cool, really, isn't it? That's the Commodore 64K.
Incredible.
And obviously, thanks to every single person that's given us a download. And also, just apologies for if you were trying to get 77 a few weeks back, where there was a bit of a glitch in the matrix behind the scenes. And so, but hopefully that all got rectified and everything's back and smooth sailing now. Apologies for that. It was a while back now, by what time you listen to it. Not a while back for us, but it's time. Anyway, sorry about that. We got anything more you want to add?
No, that's it. It's time to go.
It is time to go. So, as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
I have been Graham Raddings.
And you have been listening to Osmium. And we will see you again next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Osmium. Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zap to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zap to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zap to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.